beginning at 5:30 to discuss the proposed fiscal year 2023-2024 budget. The public is invited to attend. And with that, how about Ms. Heyer? You're recognized.
Kenny was going to go first, but the part of Kenny will now be played by me. So
Good job.
Welcome, everyone. So basically what I have for you tonight is I have a PowerPoint presentation that kind of gives you an overview, big picture view of what the budget looks like. Then we're going to break it down into the departments. You all have an agenda. I've kind of scheduled it out because some people had to leave early and some people have short budgets and some talk longer than that. So, Kenny, did you want to say anything to start?
Well, yeah. Thank you all. I was able to get my hard copy, and then the time I got back, you'd already started. I just want to thank y'all and thank all the department heads for working so hard to put this initial presentation together. Appreciate you all taking time out to meet with us on the evening when you worked all day. And so I'll turn it over to Miss Dana.
All right, we'll go through the PowerPoint now. So we'll start with where I think we're going to end at June 30th with a fund balance of $64,634,450, which is pretty decent fund balance. Revenues, I'm estimating at $38,685,576, and this slide basically gives you an idea of where those revenues come from. So you got about 65% from local taxes, 19% from intergovernmental revenues, which is your state shared taxes, business tax, 2% from grants, 3% from bonds, and 11% from permits and fees. Just some of the highlights for the revenues. I did not increase the tax rate or propose a tax increase, so it's still 11 cents, which would give about $2.2 million to the general fund. State shared revenues are estimated to be $135.29 per capita, which brings in about $5.32 million. I'm estimating sales tax at $18.8 million this year. The hotel motel tax has significantly recovered from the pandemic, so I'm estimating that at about $1.35 million this year. And then there's 3 grants, 2 for the PD and 1 for the Hamilton-Denson Park restroom. So those directly offset expenses that are in the department budgets. General fund expenditures, $90,258,645. This slide shows you the breakdown of like how much each department covers. So the most is actually transfers to the capital projects fund. That's $32 million. The general government expenditures are $9,222,000. Public safety, which includes fire and police, $27,852,974. Public works is $15,382,889. Community development, which is your codes and planning, is $2,127,392, and then your parks and rec is $3.4 million. If we look at what makes up those expenditures, the transfers to capital projects, which I think I said earlier that $32 million was transfers to capital projects. That's my mistake. $29 million of that, almost $30 million of that is capital projects. The other is debt service and State Street aid. So $29 million transfers to capital projects. Personnel expenditures are $28 million. New capital expenditures, which includes vehicles, land, buildings, is $20 million, 20.9. You've got operating expenditures of 8.9. And then there's the transfers to State Street aid and debt service coming in at about 1.1 each. Your expenditure highlights. In the payroll, there is a 6% COLA with a 2% merit. There are 21, this is general fund too. There are 21 new positions. Public Works is asking for 2, fire 5, police 9, and City Hall, which includes all the departments at City Hall, 5. Capital items, there's 18 vehicles for about 829,000. Machinery and equipment, 904,000. Computer equipment, 318,000. There's land at 2.25 million. There's 2 fire engines. Now, those are in the budget because we have to give them a PO, so they'll start making that fire engine. But those fire engines won't be ready for a couple months, or for a couple years rather. There's a rollover of a fire engine that's in the current budget that's not going to be ready this year by June 30th. So that's 439,000 that's getting rolled over to the new budget. There's 781,000 for ambulances. Now those are also under construction, so we probably won't see those this fiscal year, but they are rolled over because we did appropriate money for them. Buildings, there is a public works building that's in there for 9.26 million. Fire has some renovations and parking, that's 550,000. And then Parks has a restroom at Hamilton Denson Park. That's the 537,000. That's part of the LPRF grant that you saw the grant funds covered. So to summarize where that lands us, with a beginning of 64 million, revenues at 38, expenditures at 90, that leaves us with 12 million by the end of June 30th of next year. The next is just a summary of the capital projects that we have in the budget this year. There are 27 of them. The total 72 million. Estimated current year that may actually hit is about 25 million. That does include the new police headquarters. It also includes the Central Pike interchange. Those likely, or that one likely won't hit this fiscal year, but it is budgeted. This also gives you sort of a status of where that project is, what phase it's in. And then I did detail out where that might hit, is if it's current year or if it's not going to be current year, if it's just engineering. This is just a summary of the other city funds. The State Street Aid Fund, estimating beginning balance at 750,000, revenues at 2.5 million, expenditures 2.5, ending roughly the same as it started. Drug Fund has a starting balance of 507,000, revenues 91,000, expenditures 219. That there's a capital item in there, ending at 379. Debt Service Fund, 301,000 starting balance. Revenues estimated at 1.4. That does have some transfers from the general fund in that number. Expenditures 1.6 to end at 102,000. Employee Benefit Fund, that's where our insurance is. Starting balance 1.5. Revenues 4.4. Expenditures 4.4, ending at 1.6. Capital Projects Fund, beginning balance of 9.3. Revenues of 63 million. That's including transfers. Expenditures 72, ending at 50,000. We keep that ending balance low because assuming that we've paid off built everything and paid everything off, we don't need any money in that fund. So we keep that balance low at the end of the year. Stormwater Fund, beginning balance of 1.8. Revenues of 2.5, expenditures 1.5, leaving us an ending fund balance of 2.8 million. Sewer Fund, I'm estimating operating revenues at 9.3 million, expenses at 9.2, which gives us an operating income of 96,000. That fund has to show a positive operating income. Their non-operating revenues are 2.7. That includes a grant in that. That's 2.5 million of a grant in there. Capital contributions at 1.6. The change in that position of 4.4. The capital expenses in that fund are 14 million. I do not estimate a borrowing for those capital expenditures either. And that is that presentation.
Hey, Dana,
Uh-huh.
Under revenue highlights, you've got state street aid at 135.29.
No. That's state shared.
State shared.
Mhm.
What my question is, how much of the state shared is state street aid
None of that
portion?
is-
Ken? So this is
That
purely
is
going to general
purely-
fund.
Mhm. Yes, that's
Thank you.
purely general fund.
What, do you know what the dollar amount for shared revenue is state street aid?
Yes. Give me just a second to find it. $35 per capita.
Thank you.
And now we'll go into the department presentations. And the first one to present is police. Their agenda, yeah.
Well, good evening. Let me turn around with you. And the reason I'm doing that is that I appreciate this time for the Board of Commissioners and sitting here today and this today, my last budget workshop, man. My last budget workshop. That's why I wanted to look at everybody and just see. But, look here, it's been a privilege and certainly an honor to serve and serve you and to serve with you. And so, just thank God for your time here. As been presented by Ms. Dana in the overall breakdown, I'm just giving the a breakdown of the positions and our new positions. We have new positions, and then we have a reclassification request, and that is 4 dispatchers, and we have 1 lieutenant position. What we want to do there is that, as you know, we went into 12-hour shifts for our agency, and so we want to have a lieutenant over both squads of the 12-hour shifts. Another detective position for our investigative unit, a corporal position for our community engagement unit, and then 2 certified police officer positions. And then the reclassification is our communications supervisor, Ms. Evans, to a pay class that is equivalent to our sergeant positions. And then a reclassification of our records clerk to a lead records clerk position. We've had a lot of different movement around with the retirement of Sandra Dempsey, our lead evidence custodian, and our assistant evidence custodian, Jim Bustle. So there's been some movement internal, and so getting those positions refilled and backfilled with other personnel is essential. As we have presented the BOC before in our 10-year plan, our plan 1 was to add the minimum of 4 officers per year for that 10-year plan. And with the increase of the things and the growth of City of Mount Juliet, we want to do everything we can to position our department for success going ahead in the future to be able to handle everything that is coming on board with the say, for instance, just give you an example with our zoning that we put out, right? And we have a zone 4 that is out south with Mount Juliet, with the Central Pike and those neighborhoods that are out there. That's giving some distance, and we want our response time to be better than now, or at least what it is currently. We don't want to fall back. Mount Juliet we are a very proactive agency, and we want to continue to be a proactive agency. And so we're submitting this budget, and we're asking you to certainly give great consideration on the approval of our budget this year. Anything about the police headquarters? I'm going to leave those questions to that project manager, Captain Tyler Channel.
That number continues to change, but it's in range with what we presented to you folks, that $26 million range, which will probably be spread out over a period of 3 years. This year we have budgeted 15.6. And if we break ground in the summer, basically the start of the new fiscal year, that'll be the 15.6 million that we have. We already have them.
They just don't have
They don't have
radios.
radios.
Really?
Yeah, and it just comes into an issue when they don't have radios. Their response capabilities are a bit limited. We only have so many at the office that they're able to check out. But when you have them all at once, we realized that with the tornado incident that we really need to get them all their own radio. And you'll notice in there as well, there's some money to purchase the same firearm for all of them. Right now, they carry a different array of firearms, different from what our patrol officers have. And we want them all on the same platform that we have. So ammunition's interchangeable, magazines are interchangeable on different incidents.
They provide their own firearms?
They do now. We are wanting to buy firearms for them.
That's what I meant to ask. So just give them standard across the
Right.
board.
Yeah, we're wanting to get into a model.
Block.
We're wanting to get into a model where we actually furnish their equipment,
9.
9mm.
Nine?
Yeah, we carry 9mm. We're wanting to get into a model where we do provide their equipment for them. Right now, if we want to add a reserve police officer, they have to spend about $3,500. We did have a gentleman did not complete training, but he bought all his equipment. And we're trying to resell his equipment to different people to change that burden for him.
3,500.
So that's the basic cost to be equipped as a police officer initially. Your uniforms, your ballistic vest, your firearm, all the different equipment around your belt. About 3,500. Boots, you name it.
I'm wealthy.
Yeah.
It's all hanging in the closet. Can you also use L3
L3 Communications, the
cameras?
no, sir. We swapped over to utility body worn about 5 years ago. And you'll notice in the budget is the contract renewal for that.
I was going to ask about that.
And that's our body worn camera system and also the in-car camera system. It's also the same camera system in our interview rooms.
Is that a license fee or is that for the equipment? What is?
It's basically a program fee is the way to look at it because they refresh your equipment throughout years as it occurs. But you're also paying for the data of the storage of all the video. Once we knew this going into the body worn camera program that we would probably be locked in with the company, and we really are because they house all of our data, all of our video, right? But the system has worked extremely well for us. We're happy with it. If we were to change, it would be probably a more substantial investment.
Are you using, you got two separate data storage?
No, sir, all one.
All one cloud?
Yep, all in one cloud. Utility is the company. They handle all of our data storage for the video and also photographic and video evidence.
They got backup?
Yes. It's our evidence management system.
Just kind of a subscription-based model.
More of a program fee. They charge us basically based on the number of employees, the number of devices that we have, the amount of data that we bring in. Our data policies affect that. How long do we want to keep data?
Then the state changes the law and it gets more expensive.
Probably.
What have you seen the historical fees every year? They go up 5%, 10%, just to.
It's hard to say. I was a bit on a sticker shock when they sent the renewal for us this year when we checked for the budgeting. But Travis and I compared notes and compared other costs that were going up related to such, and it was in line with all of that. The thing that we get out of this is they have to refresh the devices that we wear. The body worn cameras are basically a smartphone that mount behind of our vest. And they replace the equipment inside the vehicle throughout that refresh of your 5-year contract.
I'm sure it's a great system. It concerns me based on the comment it's hard to get out of.
It is. But
So I'm sure they know that too.
right, but that's every system.
Oh.
Every system out there. And Travis and I did a lot of research on the front end 5 years ago on this. And utility was actually one of those that came in. Not really was our high one. Our high one was the Axon product because they quote unquote are the premier system. But once you buy in, this is every police agency, once you buy in, it's the same model throughout.
Now, do they have the ability to take the old data that was falling under the L3 and they can?
Right. There are those provisions, but obviously there's a cost associated with that if we were to try to migrate the data to another platform.
Which is part of what causes the problem when you're trying to get out of it and to get into another one. Not all are transferable. We had the same thing at Sheriff's.
Yeah.
Probably export to a common format and charge you to download the data. That too. Travis is shaking his head. It's kind of like the Azure model. Stick all you want, and then we'll bill you to get it out.
Is sufficient for now.
Thinking in our strategic, go ahead. We're in line with our strategic plan, and we know that we're asking for a lot with the new building. And I think you'll see us try to be as light as we can as we approach our funding request the next couple of years until we get to the new building. At some point, Milo needs to retire, probably about 2-3 years out if he stays healthy. But my guess is a third K-9 request will probably come maybe the next fiscal year or the next. The biggest bump you see with the dispatchers is related to the fire EMS dispatching that we're doing. We really need to get more dispatchers in there, but also prepared for the emergency medical dispatch that'll come once we're in the new facility. And then staying with our strategic plan to ensure we have plenty of officers on the street. You see those police officer bodies in there.
So, just out of curiosity, what is the overall increase in revenue that we're anticipating for next year? You know what that is?
I don't have that right now.
Huh?
I don't have that right now.
Do we have any idea? It's a rough guess. Or
An overall increase in revenue for next year?
you're going to put something in here,
I
right?
can put something together. I just don't have it right now.
Okay. So my question, what's the increase in just operational? I'm not talking about capital.
For
Police operations.
our increase in dispatch, our 911 calls are up 120%.
No, I'm talking about percentage
dollar,
of
right?
cost, the budget.
34% in operating,
Sorry.
34% in operating.
34%.
Huh?
Up 34%.
Correct. Which is, most of it is the renewal of the body worn camera system, medical dispatch. It's on the second, if you have this page, it's on the second page.
What page, what budget book page is that?
It's not on, but it's in the, did you get this?
35.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I didn't see that.
Total
Yeah.
operating is
Ouch.
page 35.
So at this one, cheap.
No, I didn't send that, what he's got out. I'm sorry.
Do you have a specific question?
I'm just trying to figure out percentage wise, what our anticipated revenues and what anticipated operational costs are going to be next year for the city. And then what the increase is going to be for the police department. I'm just comparing.
Didn't you project revenues? For this
I mean,
time?
I have revenues for FY '24. Is that what you're looking at?
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no. Are you looking for a percentage? I don't think that I have the percentage figured out, but I can do that real quick. I had too many numbers in my head. My apologies. Ooh. That's gonna be a little hard for me to project. Hold on just a second. Because there's grant revenue that I need to exclude.
What I'm looking for basically is just for the city, for City Hall, what the operational cost to run the city overall.
Oh.
I guess if I looked hard enough, I could probably get all this myself, but I'm not that good at math, so I'm not sure what's from that line.
Okay, operating expenditures for the city general fund is 8.8 million, almost 8.9 million.
Okay, and that's just to run the city manager.
Yes.
Okay, and so what was it last year?
Thank you.
$7.1 million.
So we're increasing the cost by 1.8 million to run the city, is that correct?
That doesn't include any budget amendments that we've done this year. That's just from the budget last year.
Increase.
So we're increasing the budget by 21%. So Tyler, to answer your question, what I was looking for is just, what it was last year to run the police department and what it's going to be this year. To run the
Right.
police
Our overall increase for personnel, operating, and capital is just 14% increase.
14%.
Right. And that's excluding the building.
Yeah, I'm not talking about, just talking about operations only.
Personnel, operating, and capital was 14% to run the entire police department. And that's $1,782,128.
Is most of that increase due to the COLA? Said
6%.
COLA and
COLA.
merit?
Merit didn't change.
Okay.
The merit doesn't really, it
Effect.
has a minimal impact on it, but there's a 6% COLA.
Yeah,
But that's in payroll. That's not that's not operating numbers that I gave. In the operating numbers I gave. I look at personnel. I look, huh?
COLA would be in the operating number?
No, it's in the pay. It's in the personnel expenditures. So I when I look at it, I have three different ones: personnel, operating, and capital. So
Okay, I guess
Personnel.
just for clarity's sake, when I look at it, I'm looking at personnel being
And
operating
operating.
as well. So I mean, the two combined would be what I'm looking at.
okay, so the two combined this year is 37,100,000. The two combined last year. Me. Is 30.7 million. So what did I say, $7 million increase?
Yeah.
Is it 24%?
It's 23%.
That won't work forever.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Well,
no, that's,
we added EMS
EMS.
department and yeah, so.
How did you get to the 15 million on the PD? Or just
Yeah, we
3
went back
years?
to our contractor at risk. He provided us with a document that showed the costs spread out because it would be billed, right, because the contractor at risk thing, it would be billed over different months. And he just did a projection on that. So we have it in front of us, month 1 all the way through month 19.
Okay.
And that 15, 6 is split between month 12 and month 13.
They're going to break ground this year, you think?
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it'll
I
be
heard
this-
May.
I don't know about May. Coming very soon. It is very soon. Yeah, we go to planning this month, I believe, Thursday. So, yeah, we are trucking along. But if it needs to happen in May, I'll be glad to get some gold shovels, and I will have a pretty backhoe out there to make it happen.
What's that? Oh, planning, yes.
The total expenditure, total.
You mean the total?
Okay, we're just going, okay. So your estimated cost about 35 million?
No, sir.
No, for PD, what was the total number estimated?
The number on the building itself is about 26.5.
26.5? Okay.
well, I thought we
you're
had talked
putting
about that was going to be probably
Got it.
cut down.
No,
But
it's
it's
tracking
26 million.
26.5. We continue to make some efforts to cut it, and we may be successful, but we're going to have to eliminate some of the mechanical systems in the building to make it cheaper. But 26.5 is about right there where it's at. And if costs continue to go down, we could continue to get lucky because the contractors are in the process of bidding now. There's a bid out there for the contractors with the parent company to get those costs more hardened. But we're estimating about 26.5, 26.
Okay, but we got 15 in this budget, correct?
Correct.
I'd suggest somebody gets out a good old fashioned chainsaw and starts chopping.
Yeah, we
26.5 is,
we looked at every opportunity to make it lower, whereas our program was frugal, durable, and functional, and we made cuts in different areas where we made cuts. And I think if we cut any more, I would be wasting your money. I would be wasting our taxpayers' money because I wouldn't provide you with a building that was adequate.
we've had this conversation in the past. Police officers need to be in cars, be in the community. Admin should be less, as low end at the top as you can get.
Right.
And
we-
there's no reason to go in there and stack. Yeah, I
We're
mean,
not.
granted, I understand you want to do this and you want to do as much as you can and a plan for the future, but at the same time, bricks and mortar is not for police officers.
Yeah, we presented the plan to you and in detail. You've seen what it looks like inside. You've seen how frugal it is. You've seen the amount of small office space that we've had. You've seen the programming, and we got good recommendations from our board to continue forward with that programming. But there's times when I find myself looking at the plan and I ask myself, Tyler, is this even enough? Is this going to get you out 15, 20 years? Just in the past 10 years we've been in our building, we've added 34 police officers in 10 years. And I want to try to provide the best product for our community, and I got one shot to do that. And
Tyler, what's our crime rate now?
50,
What was it 5 years ago?
46.
Okay. So we've added 35 police officers and we've had an increase of 4.4
Yes,
crime rate.
our crime rate does continue to go up, but our crime rate is a rate of crime comparative to the population growth. So it changes. Now, our proactivity that our officers do drives your crime rate, because every time they find a crime element, it'll be against our crime rate. And we sit about 46% on crimes against society. That's very high for our community, but it's because our officers are out there finding crime, and the criminal element is out here. And the criminal element that we're arresting are not residents of our community. They're from the outside in, either attempting to steal or create harm to our businesses. It's very interesting when you look at our data compared to other cities, because we truly police to protect our residents and our businesses. And we have a lot of criminal influence from cities around us that we're constantly having to defend.
And how much protection does that building that costs us $26 million going to do to protect people in
Right.
the city? And
It provides all the necessary support for the officers that are out there.
it's a lot of support.
Yeah, and it's needed support. Part of that building is a huge evidence thing. And I truly hate to rehash the design of the building, because we have gone through that process with y'all. And the number that you see is not driven by me. It's not driven by design. It's driven by the cost of construction that's out there. In this whole process, there was a lot of research done, meeting with our staff, looking at our strategic plan, looking at our population growth to try to determine what our needs are. We've looked at the numbers, and I have the same presentation we provided you in, I think, January of 2023 was one of the major updates that you received. And when you look at, part of the concern was our square footage. Mr. Hefner requested a specific ratio, the square foot of the building per citizen. And our square footage when we move in per citizen is going to be the lowest than any police department around us. It's going to be 0.97. Martin, Tennessee, their ratio of their police headquarters building per citizen is 1.49. The city of Cookeville was 1.31. The city of Brentwood is 1.20. The city of Spring Hill is 1.19. We're going to move in at 0.97. And in 2040, when we're still in the building, we're going to have 0.71.
You remember you and I having a conversation here a few months back when you said that there was a cost that was assumed cost, but there was going to be an actual cost, and you felt comfortable that the actual cost was going to be less. Remember that?
I remember those conversations, and I still think that 26 is going to be less, but the market continues to change rapidly. And I have no control over the market, but we've made substantial cuts already. There's been things we wanted to be a little bit cheaper on, but planning has some rules that we had to ensure we met as well. And through planning, they have bent a little bit on some things to keep it as cheap as possible. But this is the market. I'm looking at the square footage. I'm looking at the growth of our city. I'm looking at where we're going to be. And I hope I'm not cutting. I hope I have not cut too much about what we're going into.
Yeah.
City of Spring Hill, they're building, a new building as well, and they're doing 57,000 square feet. We're about 45,000 square feet. Similar city, similar population. They don't have the crime influence that we do with the city of Nashville on our doorstep. And they're building a lot larger building. It's just the cost of the times. This is the best way I can
I
explain
have
it
a
to you.
hard time equating square footage to crime rate. I mean, because the crime rate is dictated by the officers. Officers should be on the road, not in a building.
Mhm.
So, I mean,
But they do require some support, and a lot of this
a lot of
building,
support.
a lot of this building is open office space. You've seen the design. Our dispatch center that also handles emergency medical dispatch, which we're one of the only few cities in the state of Tennessee that dispatches for police, fire, and EMS. We wanted a substantial building because we don't want to hit by a tornado and taken down.
I say my only fear is our state legislature makes a change to some state laws, doubles the time you got to hold your evidence, or some other unforeseen thing out there that's going to, speaking to the size of it. That's my fear.
That's actually dictated. outside of the state legislature. That comes from other sources. But
Yeah.
you're right. I mean, it could happen. It's got to be taken into consideration.
It's just a,
I know that the sheriff's department was just, I think it was $35 million, that monstrosity up there that they're building. And I just hate to see us follow suit anywhere near what they're doing.
Yeah, ours isn't going to be a monstrosity. I think you'll be very pleased when you see it, and I think you'll be surprised because a lot of it's going to be filled, which scares me on day one.
How many square footage was that? How many square feet was theirs and at the sheriff's office?
I have no clue.
I'd like to know that.
Yeah, ours is 45.
any other questions for the police? Well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks for y'all's time.
Thanks, sir.
Travis, what pages are you covering?
28 and 29.
I just texted my wife.
Like to add a little humor. Just glad to see that this is the first year that Travis Taylor has had to wear glasses. When we conducted our budget workshop. I thought he was invincible. I mean, the hair, the beard, the teeth.
No,
But finally, it's glad to see that
they finally
something on
gave up.
Travis
I
is
mean, I could
going.
do it, but I have to do it out here. I think
Y'all stop talking about aging and eyesight.
Yeah, some of us understand it, so it's sort of glad to see we take personal satisfaction when it happens to others.
Some things just don't work like they used
you
to.
know, if it happened just like that, I'm
He
telling you.
understands, he feels the pain.
It went from being able to see to
It's a slow.
reading these just
It's pretty
overnight.
instantaneous. So we put 10 pairs of readers in for just Travis alone.
Travis, how big a building do you need?
I
just thought I'd check.
I'm right over here. So.
Okay.
Just
Keep
one
on his
office.
own data center. It's on the cloud.
So for the IT department, the operating budget highlights are mainly is an increase in operating budget of 36%. That's an increase in telephone and circuit costs to the different buildings, increase in software subscription costs, and increase in different copiers and computer equipment costs. But the big delta in that is this the citywide document scanning and archiving project that we're trying to kick off, which would get scanning all the documents that the police have stored, that all the different departments have stored in different storage units and everywhere, so that they can more easily access it, search for it, and then get it archived in a system they can get access to. That entire project's very expensive. They have, there's so many documents going back from 1972. So, I mean, it's just huge. And, but it's like $450,000 for the entire project. But we divided that over in 4 years. So, when we've gone out and got quotes for it. So these numbers are real numbers, budgeting numbers, but real numbers. We still have to go to bid for it and all. But I put in $110,000 in that budget for that. So we can split that up. And that first year would be basically licensing costs. And then a few of the smaller departments, larger departments would come later.
Is this where you tell me it's going to save that much in labor?
Yes. It's just that and they, a lot of these storage units they're in, they're kept in, we go and look for documents and there's, mice or something have eaten something, or, this would save those documents from environmental issues as well as ease of finding them, because hours to be found, if they go looking for certain documents, sometimes the police spend hours looking for a document in a box in a data center, in a storage unit.
Travis, can I add to that too, is that's my fault, because we talked about this last year with a few other commissioners. I think Commissioner Hefner and I may have in particular talked about that. And I think it's a great idea. At some point, just because of the amount of documents, like I said, through what you have to retain, you have to start scanning. And we've started scanning a lot of documents now, but in years past, when we didn't have the technology for that, we didn't do it. It will save us a lot of space in future. Like, for example, if the City Hall building goes through, you wouldn't have to have that. The other building that we've been discussing, if we did have to keep hard copies for a while, we'd have a location for that. That's what we're trying to do, is think outside the box a little bit on some of our equipment storage as well, not just the documents, but we have one little building behind us. Thank you all for allowing us to purchase that building. I think that was a really good move. It'll keep us from doing that. We would have liked to have done this a long time ago, but it's not something that if the commission felt comfortable with, we felt like we were asking for too much this year across the board, we could kick it. We could
Well,
kick it
that-
to another year.
That's not these mythical numbers where people come up and say, well, if you scan all this, get it online, then it'll save every employee 11 minutes a week, and we'll multiply that by
No,
blah, blah,
sir.
blah. You're talking about getting rid of actual or not needing physical sites. That's something you can put pen and paper to and come up with
Exactly
a number
right.
to offset some of
Yeah,
this.
yeah. To manage the scanned documents today that we're already doing today and sort of stay ahead of it, that part's not as difficult. We've got the tools, things of that nature of that. But to go back and sort of all the documents that we had in the past, and Commissioner, you're right, the state's known at any time just to throw up something new at you and say, you know what, instead of 50 years, we want you to keep that forever, kind of thing. So we were just, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We were just, but if we split it, yeah, so if we can scan it, it just makes it easier. So it would be a process.
Well, it makes it easier. I'm sure there's a retention policy
Yeah.
that's in place,
It does. So
and we're not keeping things past its retention life.
Right. Some things have a retention policy. Some things, like Sheila said, are literally forever. I mean,
Yeah.
it-
Yeah.
70 years.
Correct. Also, too, it does act as a disaster recovery, contingency planning.
That's
If you ever had to
exactly right.
recreate, I mean, we've missed tornadoes here now.
That's right. And it
couple
went right
times.
over the roof of this building.
I mean, you can't recreate something that doesn't exist anymore.
That's
So
exactly right. So it's just a long time coming, but it's, if the commission saw fit to feel like this was too big a number for now, even though it's spread out over a few years, we respect that.
And I do think there's efficiency gains.
Yeah.
Like, we're not using typewriters anymore, but because
We remember.
PCs are so
Commissioner.
much quicker.
That was a
But
good
yeah,
call.
it's great. I appreciate that.
Yeah, there's no doubt
Thank
there's
you for that.
efficiency gains on this stuff. I always just enjoy the sales pitches on that stuff as to how much that'll
Been on
save you.
both sides
Yeah.
of that.
Anybody come up with those
I've been on
numbers?
both sides of
I don't think
that.
they take 200 years to do it. Sort of like the electricity.
Last thing on this, we are certain if we get these digitalized that we can get rid of the physical documents. There's no laws out there requiring
There
us
is
to
a
keep a physical copy of it as well.
I've got to check on the ordinances and original ordinances and resolutions and minutes.
If we're holding it up, yeah, we can deal with that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There is actually a federal law. Wish Gina was here. It's called the Best Evidence Act that was passed many years ago that simply states that if documents or requests are required in court, you have to provide the best form of evidence. And if you keep the digital copy and the original, you have to go and pull the original record. So that right there tells you once it's archived, once it's on whatever media, you should get rid of the paper.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to produce it in court as per this best evidence. So there's no law that says you have to digitize or archive. But if you keep both versions, you have to pull the original, the paper. So
I didn't know that. That's good.
Let's not do that then.
yeah, get rid of it.
Yeah.
Get rid of it.
So anyway, we can roll that forward with, the original plan is, in this year would be, all the equipment to do it, the software licensing and all that stuff, but the building department, HR and planning is the first year. And then following years would be finance, police, public works, all that. So that's most of the operating and capital. Our capital budget is just various networking equipment replacements, various generator projects, a drone replacement, a couple of vehicles, MJTV server replacement, and the security camera additions. Security camera additions are mainly parks, greenways, that type of thing.
And the
And
one paid dividends to the fire department.
yeah,
Luckily, it wasn't more damage.
We're talking money here, so.
Mhm.
And that's it for IT, unless you guys have specific questions, I can answer.
What was the overall increase?
For operating, 36%, and capital was 27, but capital's year to year.
Capital and
27%.
personnel?
But personnel is the same with that.
It's 10.
With that.
It's 10.
10.
10. All right,
I've been asking for about 3 years about improving the sound system in here,
Mhm.
and I still get a lot of complaints about people sitting in the back.
Yeah, I think we're on something there. So, you're talking about someone sitting in the back and not being able to hear
Yeah.
in this room.
Yeah.
I think that's the function of this room. I mean, if we do too much audio back here, then we're going to get feedback, is what we were told. So I can look into that. But last time I looked into that, they were saying this is really a function of this room was not really designed for what we're using it for, and that if we try to do too much, then we're going to get a lot of feedback because we're really kind of riding right on that line of even right now with all these mics on, we're riding on that line. So you can sometimes hear it kind of squelch, but I think it's just a function of the room is that, where we are.
Okay. I know when we passed about having the work sessions live and putting them on the website, I know they haven't been put on the website, but they've been put on YouTube,
Yep.
which is fine. So is the reason they're not on the website like a cost issue
No,
about size?
Just a link. I mean, we could link the YouTube to the city site. I mean, it's
Okay, can you do that? Because
Absolutely.
I've had a couple of people ask
Yeah.
why they weren't on the.
It's just
website.
it's just.
So
a
yeah,
recording.
if you could add the links, that would be good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem at all.
I think a lot of the sound problems can be just simply the distance from the mic versus talking like this.
And that is true too. And we tried to
Expecting it to
overcome
pick
that
it up.
because some people will get right up in the mic and some people don't. And you just run into that. $0 call. That's right. And I think that's it for IT. I have GIS as well. So if you're done with IT, y'all done? So GIS is basically status quo, except we are adding a GIS technician position to assist Rob Haley. Rob handles a lot, does a lot, but Rob he's worked heavily, and so he's in need of someone to assist him, and also to be here when he can't be here, and someone that can do that type of thing, because when he's out sick or on vacation. But also we're behind on a lot of data points that the city needs collected. This person would be used for collecting GPS data points and that type of thing as well. So that's what this is. Other than that, GIS remains the same.
And that needs a second full-time position?
Yes.
What are some of these data points that were?
Well, specifically, they're going to be collecting, I wish Rob was here before this, but sewer and stormwater data points.
We just did a contract for all the
Yeah, and
manholes
that is part of it. That's going to be part of it. But he was. I'll get back with you on that one because he gave me a whole list. I just don't have it with me, but of the things that we're going to be used for. Sure. I mean, if that's up to him. That's not plugged up.
Oh, it's not?
No, so it comes in here.
Thanks, so used to that.
As part of overall asset management of public works, this information is required to get the federal funding that we're going to probably be pursuing. And one of those was a grant we just got for $2.5 million through the ARP bill. But as a city right now, we're vastly behind on our GIS network. Going forward, this position would collect sewer information such as force main locations, stormwater, which are basically public pipes, ponds, head walls, you name it. And we're severely lacking on the asset management, and that's what doing that in-house would save a lot of money going forward.
So we could avoid, I guess, like that one contract we just signed for, I think, $400,000 for the mapping of those like manholes and other stuff.
Going forward, yes,
Take that on in-house.
correct. that contract is the baseline, and then going forward,
This will maintain it.
correct, yes, sir.
Any other questions? Guys, ladies?
That overall budget increase, does that include the GIS? Okay, that's everything.
I believe so. Actually, I don't know how the GIS increase.
Operations too. Your personnel, your person.
So the new person is how much more?
78,000.
So it's a 7% increase.
Yes, yeah.
So it's an increase of 74% in the GIS budget,
And the personnel.
personnel for the first
Operating is only 10.
10%. Yep.
74 and 10.
Okay. We good?
Who's next?
Planning.
Jennifer Hamlin. Let me get Jennifer Hamlin's mic. Are you using the same one she left? Number one.
Number one. Oh, there I am. I'm hoping this is the easiest one of the whole night. I'm just asking for a planning technician for food truck permits as well as a vehicle for that person. And I envision them also helping put out our public notice signs, doing some parking and landscaping inspections to help Miss Jill get some relief from that and help put out our public notice signs when they are not busy as well.
So if we don't do food trucks, how much do we save?
$64,000 plus
Annually?
a car, which is $50K.
We need a lot of food trucks to offset
A
that.
lot.
We
So-
like to eat here.
We do. I've eaten today so much, I've probably gained 12 pounds. So that's what I have. Of course, that would not be a needed position should the food truck ordinance fail, but Dana and I and Mr. Keeney thought it was best to go ahead and add it into the budget, as well as the budget amendment that you guys have seen previously at the last meeting.
Somebody would have asked why it wasn't in the budget.
Yes, somebody would.
You have an overall increase.
It's 78,000.
I mean, percentage wise.
I don't, unless Dana might have that handy.
It's 22% overall.
Personnel and.
17 personnel and 55 operational.
55%. Okay.
Operational go up so much. Oh, your contractual services went up.
Yes,
That was the big.
our landscape architect just raised her fees after 15 years to 145 an hour from 99. So I just don't know. That's project driven. So I'm not sure what our project submittals are going to look like. So I'm just forecasting for that the best I can. We've always been under budget. So
Question. Love John. Is he part-time, full-time?
He's part-time.
contract? What is he?
he's part-time.
Okay. Is he still live up in Ohio?
He does. He averages about 25 to 30 hours a pay period.
Okay.
And he gets 0 benefits, no holiday pay, like no insurance.
Oh, because he's part-time?
Yes, sir. He's actually been a great asset to our department. So
Yeah,
I'm-
we had him here for quite a while,
Oh, I know.
full-time, and then we asked Jennifer, so would you rather just replace him outright or into a full-time range? She said, no, he's such an asset, I'd really rather take on the extra work himself and then convert him to part-time for all the stuff that he can do online, and of course, he feels that if she's not here, he can be here.
right. He comes when I'm not available. We did replace him with another full-time employee that did not work out well. And it's working great. The system that we have, he's able to catch a lot of calls and emails that I can't get to from being pulled to meeting, and as well as very instrumental in our staff reports, which is very time consuming.
I was curious if that would work as well, and questioned her on it. She assured me that it would, and it's worked out. I guess y'all done that for a couple of years now.
And he attends all of our open tech review and pre-application meetings via Zoom. It's worked great for our department, and I appreciate you guys continuing to allow me to have him on staff part-time. It's also some money saver for the city, not to have another full-time employee. Yes, in need of space. That's a good other point that we don't have.
Anything else for planning? All right, Dana, who's next?
Mark is up next. And his budget's on page 45.
Mark wants to brag, I think, from Jennifer, because I don't think he's got any changes.
No.
He's going off
Yeah.
earlier.
This year, we're not asking for any positions or any vehicles. So our budget's pretty much status quo.
Is this due to the permit slowdowns?
That, and we're maintaining with what we have right now. Some point in time, we'll probably look at adding someone, but it'll probably be in next year's budget.
I don't have anything to argue with that one.
Easy.
Any questions for Mark? No. We're good. Thank you, Mark.
Mark, if you don't mind, we won't be claiming your time tonight. You're on voluntary time tonight since your part was so easy.
How we doing, old buddies, old pals? Y'all doing all right tonight?
Parks is on page 53 to 56.
Commissioners, this will most likely be your most stressful presentation tonight.
Hey, this is gonna be sweet and easy and painless, guys.
And we're dancing with the devil.
Hey, just open up. I just got a mic drop here. We came in at 3.7 million, almost 3.8 last year. We're down to 2 million. So we've cut our budget 1.6 million this year. Any more questions? I know. How do you do so much with so little, Rocky? That's the question. But we've incorporated Justin Beasley, the PIO, the city PIO, not just media darling. We're using him a lot, and we're getting out there. But now we're just going to do a few things this year. Thanks to Taylor Swift and the national events, we've been filling up the motels, so our profits are high there, and we're going to use those to try to do a few things. And one of them is just improving Mundy Park and our parks and just trying to stay where we're at now. We've set the bar pretty high, and we're trying to maintain that. And we'll be coming back with, resealing the park. We're going to put a new workout station out Monday, extend the playground Commissioner Mullally asked for. We need new gators at both parks. And this year, we're going to be asking for a tractor with a bat wing. We're going to be cutting the intersections at Mount Juliet and Beckwith Road. So we're going to need a four-wheel drive tractor for that.
And Robinson Park.
And Robinson Park. Okay, what we want to do there, the Women's Auxiliary, we've been working hand in hand with Gwen Queener there. And they've been really struggling to try to get a Veterans Memorial Wall up there. And they've done everything they can to raise funds for this. And I think it's something we really need to wrap our arms around. It's for our veterans, our Wilson County, I think Mount Juliet and Wilson County veterans. And we kind of fell in love with that too. And we, if it's going to be in my park, I think we step up and we do the wall for them. And that's just my thought. But that's really what Robinson Park's looking at, is to do that Veterans Memorial Wall. And we're looking at about $175,000 to do that. And I think they've raised, last time I heard, like $10,000.
175,000.
Yeah, 175.
I apologize. I had to make a phone call, so I missed part of you.
But and just, we got a few things like some playground pour in place, gutters, 88 ramp, handrails. Like I said, we're just trying to keep the parks where they're at. Like I said, we set the bar pretty high, and we're just trying to maintain that. And I think most of this on this capital improvement is going to be paid by the hotel motel tax, right? It won't be coming out of the general fund at all.
Looks smaller than the estimate.
Yeah, you have on the highlights pages that I gave you. At the bottom of the first page is the hotel motel tax reserve. And I'm estimating ending this year with 1.4 based on the revenue 1.3. His expenditures are 1.5. So we're still going to have 1.2 by the end of next year.
Does that include 175 for the wall?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. That
It's
includes
already
everything.
included?
Yes.
All that's included.
Will I still get a brick?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. We're hoping everybody buys a brick.
How much has already been raised by them?
What I'm thinking is, last time I heard, it was around 10,000, I think. It's been going very, very slow for these ladies. They're trying really, really hard. Gwen Queener and the Women's Auxiliary are really reaching out. They're doing everything they can. I don't know an actual number, but I do know the number to build it. I talked to David Little and them, and they're saying around 150 to 175. So I think we can make it happen for that. But it's something really I think is needed here. It'd be something I think we can embrace.
But it would be at Robinson Park?
Yes, sir. Well, it doesn't have to be at Robinson Park, but that's the place they've kind of picked out right now where the banner's been standing.
I saw the banner, but I mean, I
It's
just,
not there right now, I
it's,
Yeah,
for those that, I mean, where's the parking for Robinson Park other than over
behind
behind?
Dairy Queen.
Yeah, so
It's a little walk up there. You get
seems like it
little
ought to be a little,
exercise,
something a little more accessible.
touch the wall. I mean, we could place it somewhere else. I mean, RTA would be a beautiful place to put it if, you know. we
That's
could
kind of
get-
what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, RTA would be beautiful. It doesn't have to be there. It's not carved in stone. It's just, I think we do, the Women's Auxiliary would really love it, and I think it'd be something citizens could jump on board with.
So that, tell me about that wall. Well, I mean, I understand it's a veterans wall, correct?
Yes, sir. It's a Veterans Wall, Wilson County, Mount Juliet.
Lebanon?
You can buy, yeah. You can just buy a brick, put in there of your loved one, whoever it served. I think all the way back to Civil War up to now. And it'd just be a memorial there for our veterans. And it'll be lit. It'll have the flags. There's a good drawing. I think we've got a drawing of it somewhere. Gwen Queener does, but I can submit that to you guys if you'd like to see it.
I don't know if this is the proper venue or to have the conversation about the placement of that wall, but I think I'd like to have it someplace a little more accessible so more people can see it.
And, get to it too.
Right, without having
Yeah.
to,
I think it's a great idea. I mean, the wall can be put anywhere we want to put it.
Yeah, I can work on that.
Yeah.
There might even be a possible donor out there, somebody's got a piece along that's really passionate about veterans in our country, and see if I can find a little bit better location.
I was just thinking about the field, the flags
Yeah.
and where we have them there, but I worried that, will the RTA going to come in later and take that away from us and
Yeah, there's always that possibility.
say,
Yeah. And
well, I
it
thought
could
about that
be-
too. It's kind of in the bottom down there.
So
So
one of the ideas that kicked around was a redesign, and where we had a donor donate the fencing that's at the clock tower. We even talked about incorporating the clock tower into the design of the wall, and then instead of the ornamental aluminum fence, you would have the veterans wall around it. So when you come to Corner Mountain View Road, you saw the clock tower, sort of the centerpiece, and then the wall out from that with the veterans, because then you can visit it from the backside and see it from the front. And then we would put some military medallions on the wall on the part that faces Mountain View Road. That could look really nice. And we already have that approved through the RTA because we were able to work within that area of the right of way without him really encroaching that much onto their property. And that would look really nice. It also would complement the opposing corner where Mr. Powers is going to be developing soon, sort of tying some things in there.
I like that a whole lot better.
I think he had some open space in the corner too, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly. We might be able to tie that design in. Look really nice.
What's your overall percentage increase of the budget?
Overall percentage on operations is probably about 2 to 3%. It's really low. We're pretty well
And-
stagnant on our cost.
And personnel?
Personnel, I don't deal with personnel much. That's from Mr. Dana. I make requests and
You do.
Dana tells me just stay away from that part, Rocky. Stay away.
It's 9%. 6 of that would be the COLA
9% increase.
in personnel. Then 6 of that is the COLA. So in personnel. So everything else is just people moving up through the pay plan.
And you also explained the one thing we're doing with the fireworks presentation is why I think we're budgeting it to try to pre-order.
Yeah, so there was a timing issue with the fireworks, so there's an extra year's basically worth of fireworks in this budget, but it's because so this year they're wanting to pay for the fireworks ahead of time, whereas last year we paid for them after the show. So we've already spent the 16.5 that was budgeted in this current budget. So I'm going to show it as prepaid for this year and apply that to the July's expenses, but that'll eat it up. So if we end up in this situation again, I've added an extra 16.5 so that when the time comes around next year, we actually have the money budgeted to go ahead and pay for that next year. So it's just
We're
doubled.
still
for-
staying at 16.
It's still 16.5, yeah.
Yeah.
It just looks higher because it crossed a year. So there was 1 year in the past that we budgeted it and didn't pay for it because it hit the next year's budget.
I remember about 10 years ago, we were spending 30,000 on fireworks.
It's reverse
Now-
inflation.
Huh?
Reverse inflation.
It's rare, it's rarely seen.
And this year we're spending 16.5, and we were told we're going to have the biggest fireworks display ever in the history
It'll be-
of Manatee.
There'll be $66,500 worth of fireworks go up this year.
Who's paying for the other?
35's coming from Mr. Needham, 25's coming from Rufus Page, and 16.5 from the city.
Imports must be paying well.
Geysers.
So don't go to Riverfront, come to Mountain View, Tennessee.
It's gonna be a big one.
Be ready,
What
Joe.
was that Cheech and Chong movie up in smoke?
Anything else
Cheech and
for
Chong
for
movie up in
farts?
smoke.
I think we're good, Rocky.
Thank you, buddy.
Great job.
Thank
Appreciate it.
y'all.
Thank you, Danny.
Fire's up next, and that's on pages 41, 42, and then EMS is 43 and 44.
Mayor, Commissioner, I want to thank you guys for smooth, I guess you'd say the seamless transition from fire to incorporate EMS. I'd like to thank the commission as well for what you've done on that and stepping up for the city. I think that's been very successful, so thank you.
All right.
I knew it was
Sorry
coming.
about
Total accident.
All right. I'd like to start with most of the capital items that the fire department and EMS had. There are some personnel additions, including the chief of training, an EMS compliance officer, and then obviously an additional six members in our department for filling stations. Major capital items, as you saw on Dana's presentation, $550,000 of that was to go to Station 1 to enhance it, make it a little bit bigger than what it is. We're maxed out for space, and for ISO considerations, we'd like to add personnel to that building, but we can't right now because we can't. We're maxed out on those bedrooms. So that's kind of the major hit for us, as well as our pay scale. And I know Dana and I have worked really close with that and reorganizing our pay scale. We had a little bit of confusion in this past year's budget with running EMS. We were kind of anticipating not running in this fiscal year, but we ended up running it. And so we've kind of taken all of our personnel and put them under the fire department budget just as a one whole thing. Makes it a little bit easier on accounting for us and for her. So that's another major thing. Our capital budget, it's kind of full of rollover, as you guys saw. 3 fire engines and 3 ambulances, I believe, total in that. So that's the majority of where our money's at. We have made those orders, and we're on their books to get that rolling. Other things along in the fire department budget that we've added, $25,000 for what we call tools and equipment. Most of that in time includes fire hose, extrication equipment, rescue tools. Most of those will have to be bidded out because they are expensive, and that typically helps us there. Tyler and the PD mentioned it earlier on radios and equipment. We have found that to be a problem as well with back orders. We actually just got radios in that we had ordered back in August, I believe, of last year. So Motorola, we're at their mercy. So we'd like to order more because now we have no backup plan whatsoever. We have what we have, and if something happens to one of them, we're kind of down in the water. As you guys can tell, what we just got in, it takes upwards of 9 to 10 months to even get a radio in. So, lastly, we do have one extra Ford Explorer. That includes upfitting and equipment as well in this year's budget. And then lastly, in our EMS capital improvements, we also have added $230,000 for our Lucas devices and stretchers that we were going to add in. Those go for the new ambulances when they arrive. We've already purchased 4 out of 6 of those, but we'd like to buy the 2 to fully stock all 6 sooner than later, obviously because prices increase all the time, and I don't want to wait until a year and a half, 2 years. There's no telling what those prices will be, so we'd like to order those now to hopefully capitalize on the savings. So with that's kind of the capital improvements. Everybody's asked the question, and I had time to pull that information. I know you guys are going to ask a little bit about operating. In the fire department, operating expenses have increased by 15% from last year. A little bit of that would probably be towards with the new station actually becoming live, figuring in all the cost of operating it, such as sewer, water, electricity, and though personnel adds in there as well. And then for EMS, on the EMS side, it has increased by 50%. Those numbers are kind of, I guess, skewed, if you will, because last year we had really, really lowballed that number. That number was about $250,000 in operating expenses for EMS, and that number has in this year's budget is about $430,000. And we've really just seen that because of the amount of calls that we've run. And Chief Newman pulled those numbers for me just a minute ago. And just in the 3 months that we've operated, we've almost 700 patient contacts, and we transport about 70% of the patients that we encounter. So that's about 450 patients out of those 700 that we transported. So that's the reason for the increase for that. So with that,
well, your fire operations cost is, even with adding the station, is still
it's
better
quite low
than some.
I would agree. So,
what's the expected insurance billing revenue associated with the EMS projections on that?
I projected 950,000. It's a little hard to nail that number down because we just got started. But when we worked out the numbers last year with A&B, who's actually doing the billing, I had put 940 in, and his projections were almost identical. So we felt comfortable with that. So this year I just added 950, and then hopefully we'll kind of have better idea as we go along what that's really going to look like.
Okay. All right. Do you anticipate a difference? It's not going to pay for itself?
No.
Okay.
No,
But
it won't
it'll
pay for itself.
something. Okay.
Did
All
we
right.
talk about operating the MS under probably a 50% as far as the amount coming in?
Of what we bring
50%
in,
billed.
I don't know about that. I know that I know numbers have grown according to our billing company a lot more than what they even expected to this point. So I know what she's saying, that they said that it would be somewhere in the $900,000 range, but from what conversations we've had with A&B, it seems that they're very excited for what we will bring in, and I think it will be a little bit even above that at the rate that we're on.
Sorry. Does that include transports from assisted living to hospital? Because I know that was mentioned.
Yeah,
in one of the
we don't.
presentations.
We are currently not doing that. We're only
Okay.
operating in emergency capacity. So
Okay.
911 service is all we currently offer.
Okay.
We're just now fully staffed, where we have 66 operational employees. And like I said, a week from tonight, we'll be live in Station 2. So all 3 stations will be running, and then we'll be adding a 3rd ambulance online starting next Monday.
Mm-hmm.
So the numbers will, of course, continue to increase. just with call volume. We'll surpass 5,000 calls this year without a shadow of a doubt. Right now we're up over 200 calls what we were last year. Still 40% of our calls are all overlapping. You have more than one at the same time. Afternoons and evenings kill us, especially mornings have as well here recently. So we find a lot of times where we're out of units, and by adding the next station online, I think that'll take care of some of that gap that we've had.
When do we expect WEMA to start covering?
I don't know that answer, obviously, but I know they're working hard on their 2 stations, and they're I'm sure getting ready to staff those, and in the model that they've had in the past.
Now, you said covering what?
Outside the city, their areas?
They are now.
Are we?
We respond mutual aid to any request that WEMA has in the county.
We're just doing mutual aid then?
We are. When they request us, we go. And same thing, when we need them, we request them, they come.
That's a state law that they have to follow, but there was a phone call. There was a conversation that was had last week that changed. Remember me calling you? Okay.
Overall budget increase for fire and EMS for personnel and operation.
It's a little skewed because of the merge. So EMS
You're right.
personnel dropped 100% and fire picked them all up. So it looks a little off. So fire went up 75%, but EMS went down 20%. So
Having our numbers all under one form is going to be much more beneficial from our financial record keeping and just for us to keep track of everyone. That made the most sense when we sat down, and then obviously reworking our pay chart and getting titles aligned with what people were really doing. In the past, this current year's budget, we don't have that, but we also weren't running EMS as well, so that's the reason for it.
they were able to cross
Right.
train too. So they've got paramedics who are firefighters and firefighters who are paramedics, so they can swap them out. So
Things are a lot
it made
more
sense
aligned now.
to merge those pay scales into one. So
What did you mean by title matching?
So for instance, if we had in this past year's budget, if we had let's say for instance, we had a firefighter 2 and he was also a paramedic.
Yeah.
His title would still been firefighter 2, versus where we've been hiring firefighter paramedics. Now we've kind of reworked the chart where it has, you are what you are. So if you're a firefighter EMT or a firefighter medic, you fall in this slot and you go where you belong, essentially, with your credentials. So
Okay.
it kind of just it was confusion for our personnel, and it was confusion for us as well, because things weren't really, if you were a firefighter medic and your job title was firefighter 2, it was confusing for our people. So we wanted to fix that, which we did. So thanks to Dana and for helping us with that.
So my question is, the property tax at one point we were using to fund the fire hall. At 11 cents, do you have an idea what it's bringing in this year?
it's going to be about 2.2.
I'm sorry?
2.2 million.
2.2. And I know that the fire department was costing us, James, was it 2.6 at one point when?
It was roughly a $500,000 deficit at one point.
$500,000?
Yes, that's if you talk about not 2019.
Okay, so that was 2.6 and they were bringing in 1.9, 1.2, somewhere, 2 million, somewhere around there. That number obviously has increased now to where it was, say, $2 million. What is it now overall?
Well, now it kind of includes EMS, so I'd have to pull that
I'm
out.
saying
But
so.
let's just say last year, just looking at last year, fire was 6.4, almost 6.5.
6.5.
Because it opened the state.
Now, does that include capital?
Yes. it
Okay,
does
take the
include
capital out of it, just operating.
You're at about 5.2 You're about 5.6.
5.6 for the fire department total
Yes,
this coming year?
last year.
Okay.
I can't, I'd have to pull out the payrolls combined, and I can't pull that out right now.
So it's total operating and payroll?
Yes. It's 5.6. in-
That's
in the
personnel
last
and
fiscal
operational.
year. Yes.
Okay. So then we've got approximately 2.2 still coming in from the, and then we're going to have approximately 900 coming in on billing for EMS.
On the EMS, yeah, adding the EMS, but your EMS numbers, I increased that. So this year, fire and EMS would be about 12.7 together. Not capital, do I gotta take out the capital? Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, most of that's fire engines and
Yeah,
ambulances.
sorry.
My heart just went up my throat when she said.
So it's about 8.5.
That's
roughly.
still a bunch.
I will say though, 8.5, I believe that was right in the ballpark of what a neighboring city was running their fire department for, minus the EMS with 2019 numbers.
Talking about, oh,
Yeah.
not to mention no names. So you can take approximately 3 million off of that. 2.2 for the property tax and another million or
Million
so
off
for the billing.
I will say, if you hadn't have done what you did, though, you wouldn't be an ISO 3 today either.
Thank you, James.
Getting closer.
That was a combined effort. The others weren't here. So.
Still hurts.
That does.
Any other questions for fire and EMS?
Thank you.
Oh, one other question. Did those leases, this is the last year, or did we finish up
Yes.
the last year?
No, this is the last fiscal year for those leases.
Last, they're on leases, that's 300K?
Yep.
It is.
Nice.
Public Works up next. They're everywhere.
We are everywhere.
Here's the page number, so if you
Yeah,
somewhere.
we are all over the place.
Yeah.
So I've got a whole
Good God,
team.
it takes 4 of you to do this? It
Yeah.
scares me.
We are, wow, how many different sections? 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 7 different tabs of 7 different areas.
Well, now we got Lynn Gore coming up here. I'm going to add number 5
Oh,
to
Lynn.
this.
Join me.
It's for moral support.
Yeah. Lynn's
All
going
right.
to come up and pat him on the back. Good job. Keep going.
We've got a lot. I'm gonna, keep it. I'm just gonna try to hit the highlights. Starting page 47 is really where the heart of our area begins. I did want to highlight. Do have adding a traffic engineer, trying to go. That's something we've talked about for several years. And with my departure, I think it's the time to have somebody dedicated specifically for that. In addition, we are going to be having on-call contractual services that will help out with that as well. So you'll notice, I think I was paid out of sewer. And I have to have Dana confirm this with everything, but you'll notice even though we're adding the position, a few little reclassifications here and there, the salaries from what we had from the projected current year, or actually amended budget year, actually goes down. So that's one of the highlights. Yeah.
Explain to the commission, the future setup has been something that's been suggested by some of the members on the commission. And the perfect timing was with Andy leaving to do a little bit of a restructure. One of those restructures that we're talking about will break down into 3 divisions, basically.
Yeah.
We'll add a traffic engineer. But I'd like Andy to articulate what that'll look like in the future, and I think the commission will like that. And it'll take some learning, and we'll put some paperwork out where you can sort of see how that flows. But I think it'll make it more efficient for the commission and for the citizens. So you want to take a minute and
Yeah,
explain
sure.
that?
I think two catalysts. One, we've added a new utility for the whole existence of our city since the 80s. We've had one utility, and that utility, and we've been a small enough city to operate that underneath the Public Works Engineering umbrella. In fact, we didn't even have an engineer until Marlon Kill came on board. 2009. So that tells you where we didn't even have an engineering department before then. So you talk about how we've expanded in the last 15 years. It's kind of crazy. And so as we've expanded, I mean, I still believe that we're pretty lean as far as engineering staff goes and staff in general for all of our different areas. But the Public Works, or as I like to call it, sort of the civil umbrella of things, which you talk about civil engineering in general, that covers all your utilities, it covers all your maintenance, it covers capital projects, and it covers your development projects. This is very, very broad, and it's a lot to put under one umbrella anymore. Any city our size has this broken up. The general breakup is going to be where you may have something of a public works or a transportation type of division. You would have your engineering, and then you would have your utilities. Some break it up differently, but that's kind of the three basic different departments that is covered within what we do. And so the idea of that structure would be that those are very logical based on workload. My experience of the workload, I think those are very logical breakdowns for the three different divisions. We have a heavy emphasis on transportations and transportation projects. And so it fits well to have that in with our with a lot of the things that we do within our streets and traffic divisions. That's signals, that's pavement maintenance and things like that. So those all seem to really overlap very, very well. I think there's a distinct advantage to have a person who's working on the projects for the engineering side also being overseeing a lot of the maintenance. I think that is a great learning experience. And I think it's something that as a city, I think it makes us better and more efficient on both ends. For the utilities aspect of it, now that we have stormwater, we're going to be starting crews with stormwater, which we have in the budget. We have 2 people in there as well for those are just labor level positions starting out for that. And that really fits well. There's a lot of overlap there as well for what we're doing with sewer. Both of those are enterprise type funds. And so many cities you see, I know Lebanon has a utilities director. Many other cities do that as well. And so where you're able to encapsulate all those into one. One of the advantages of having the utilities under one umbrella is to have a lot of your equipment that you might have, specifically storm and sewer. If you've got to vacuum out a storm manhole that might be clogged or silted in over time, we have a lot of that capabilities, jet cleaning lines, things like that. People that are used to working underground with pipe systems, connectivity of systems, and things like that. There's a lot of overlap to that. So those two seem to go very, very well for us as a city to overlap those two together. And then one of the other aspects of it is our development side of things. And so with that, it's very, very common to have that through your engineering department. Occasionally or many times you may have a lot of overlap with capital projects in that regard. Your city surveying, which I would like to see us get there as a city to eventually have a surveying department under that wing as well. That's one of the goals that I want to see us shoot for in the future. So you'd have surveying, you'd have all your development review, which is very, very time consuming. It's also one that the traffic engineer would fall under that umbrella. So you have the transportation. So I think for us as a city, transportation is a huge focus. It's one that we have had as I would say maybe top priority since I've been here as a city to focus on our transportation network. So one of the things is we need to make sure that we focus and make sure our staff is focused on the projects, the capital projects, be focused on those and not have to be bogged down with having to deal with a lot of the development pressures that come with the position. So the traffic engineer would be purely focused on the development side. They would be working through that side. There's some opportunity for capital projects as the time may allow, but I think that's where that would fall. So you have a transportation aspect from the development side. There will be overlap with projects, but we need to make the projects a little bit more separate from the development side, at least for our main projects. We have 26, I think, capital projects just for transportation. I think 27 total, and one was PD.
yeah.
So 26 transportation projects, and so that's a large number. So that's the idea of it. I think it's for the, I think it'd become more clear in practice of how that would happen. But I think our city's grown tremendously. When I came on board, I think we were about 25,000 people, and our department was about 20. And now we're over 40 in our department, and that's in 9 years, and we're over 40,000 people now. So I think it fits with us as a growing city. I think it gives us the ability to give a much better level of service to this commission, to our city residents. So that's where, in my opinion, I believe that's the far more sustainable structure, especially from a staffing and continuity of staff standpoint. So, Commissioner Justice.
Out of curiosity, with all the changes that you're making, what are the numbers of increase in staff over the next 3 to 5 years you're talking about?
I don't think there's any immediate need at the moment. Right now, I think what you're looking at is really my position would be replaced with a dedicated traffic engineer position. I think there's some restructuring of staff that really fits generally, and Kenny and Dana can probably speak to that a little bit more as far as how the numbers go.
So we've got 4 engineers now, right? With you, Shorty,
well,
Shane, and Matt.
Just 3.
Just 3. Three licensed engineers today.
Okay, I thought we had one more. Who's
we have a
Abraham, who's an EIT. He's not a PE yet.
okay? All right, you're talking about is it Shorty?
No,
Shorty is not.
His name's Abraham.
Oh, okay, all right. So you're talking about breaking this into 4 different divisions?
3
different divisions? Is there, and instead of going out and hiring somebody like Kimley Horn or somebody like that to come in and do a third party on some of the projects that we've got, that we would be doing those in-house now, or we would still be going out?
What are you talking about?
I'm talking
Managing
about
the
some of our
projects?
road projects that we're going to have to wind up doing the engineering on. Golden Bear
Right.
down here, for instance, we want to roll Lebanon Dirt Road that, we're our projects.
I think from a flexibility standpoint, we're always going to need, for the heavy lifting of survey and design on any of these projects, it's going to need a consultant every time. I think given our workload, just managing the projects, I think it keeps us lean not to have much more staff than what we have, and using the consultants to actually do I think you're talking about staff doing the design. Is that what you're asking? Yeah, it would be, I think with our staff right now, the way we've got it set up, we could probably, with me, Matt, Abraham, Shane, probably working full time, we could probably be working on doing a design project. We couldn't do anything else. It's that kind of heavy lifting on a design job.
The only part that really bothers me is that if we're doing 3 different divisions, that opens up 3 different divisions to wind up needing full-time employees further down the road. I mean, I've always liked the model, and most of the places that I've seen, whether they have an engineering department, they'll have a sewer department or roads or things of that nature, but there's always that one central guy that is the go-to guy. And he's also one who gets his butt creamed to get things messed up. So, yeah, in this case, you're creating 3 individuals where there was 1.
Yeah, in any city our size, it's all split up.
Yeah, we've looked at Gallatin, Hendersonville, Lebanon, Brentwood, Franklin. They all have separate
Cookville.
departments.
I thought Jeff Bain pretty much handled everything in public works related in Lebanon.
He is. It's all split up now. You've got Regina is now the utilities director. Yeah, I mean, Jeff is more or less sort of like an assistant city manager. He's not really. He's got a title there, and he's been there at the city, I guess, since 1990. So I mean, he's grown in the position that he's had.
What's Lee Clark's position?
He is, not sure, Public Works. He may be Public Works Director. Yeah. Yeah, they're split up into different departments too.
I've always found Lakeland's probably a model we want to avoid.
Guess you're talking about the time.
Huh?
Guess you're talking about which snapshot in time.
Well, I think the beauty of it is, I think, and I'll just speak from experience, the pressure and workload that you have for one person being over all disciplines of what we have with civil engineering is too much. It's way too much for one person to handle. Marlon was here for a while. He was on staff from 2009 to 2014, so that was 5 years. Jessica served as director for 5 years. I've been here for 3.5 years. You keep this model up that we have, and you're going to be looking at a cycle of hiring a new director every 3 to 5 years. My take on this is by splitting it up, you're in a position where you're starting to divide up some of these things. You can have people more hyper focused on their specific areas. I think there's less overall pressure on them to have to worry about everything all the time. And it really should help to reduce the stress level of the position. It's too much to handle for one person.
The only thing I want to avoid is going backwards with our culture and maintaining what we've got there. So, and it's been a good place for a number of years now. So.
I'll say this,
Are you leaving because you're stressed?
That's a lot of it.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot.
Jessica left so she could get wealthy. And, you know, I'll say that and Lynn's back here laughing now.
We're waiting for that, by the way.
The wealthy part? Okay.
Your concerns are well taken.
Yeah.
We talked about this when we were talking about the idea and thinking back to some comments in the past about having an on-staff traffic engineer, which can help a lot with other things beyond what you would do with Kinley Horn and other people like that. And we saw this as being a good opportunity to sort of spread that stress level, to improve the work-life balance has been mentioned a lot lately with the position, and maybe make us a little stronger with some of our road projects and all, especially having the in-house person that can work directly with some of those consultants. And there's probably some lower hanging fruit or projects that we could design if we had that person on board for some of the easier projects. So really wasn't an increase to the budget. It was just sort of changing the way we did things. And I asked those guys and did a little bit of research, and they're right. I was sort of a little bit of a hesitant to embrace it as well, but we had a good meeting with the guys. And I said, okay, I sort of see where you're coming from. And I think once we articulate what Shane, Matt, and Tim would do, and Tim's been with us for a long, long time, and he's really already doing a lot of that stuff behind the scenes. Once you get used to what it is they do, I think it'll give you that straight shot to the person you need. And most time it's probably going to be Matt, because road projects tend to be the most pressing. It's the one we all get the most questions about. You know, when's the road going to get wide and when's it going to get done? So Matt will be taking Andy's place with MPO, RTA, TCC, and all those organizations to make sure we keep a strong stand there with those organizations, which has been good. Andy's done really well at that. But I think Andy's probably tried to do too much too, and sort of having too many hands and too many pies, and this will give them a chance. And I commend you for that. I really do appreciate it. Open my eyes a lot as well, because your mindset is to stick with what you've always done. You just got this one singular person, like in most departments that you can go to. And this breaks it up a little bit, but really no additional cost to the city. So,
Will you name the departments again?
So it would be, our plan is to have the Public Works Department, which would handle the transportation projects and maintenance and garage.
Can you point, and that'd be,
Yeah, so that would be Matt.
and then that means all road projects like Highway 70 widen, South Country Road, Central Pike Interchange, the big things.
Yeah, and even down to the smaller capital level projects like the slip ramp on Lebanon Road, those kinds of things.
The one that we cannot get completed.
For any utility related questions, whether it's sewer maintenance, we've got stormwater now there for anything like that. It's Tim.
Tim?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the field. Day-to-day operations for sewer. You got a sewer smell, you got an issue, he would be overseeing the construction of them. He houses the inspectors as it is today. So that's no real change there for him. So that's, it's basically all construction and maintenance operations would be Tim. I think one of the things to keep in mind with our EQ basin that'll be coming up, that's going to be a big deal for us as a city. Think of that. It's almost like having a little mini treatment plant type of facility. There's a lot that goes into it. And so Tim's your guy for that. And then for development related projects, especially with the addition of a traffic engineer, you've got somebody there for all the, I would say the non-capital project related type stuff. Yeah. Sewer. So that'd be Shane. And also Shane is fantastic with his experience in the capital projects on sewer and stormwater. So he would be overseeing the engineering aspect of those type projects. I think also this probably gives us some flexibility in the future where you can flex based on personnel. You could probably look, if our workload goes down on transportation projects or vice versa, if it goes up for some of the others, I think there's some flexibility. This is not a necessarily all the tasks are necessarily fixed, but I think your primary ones would be.
Yeah, another thing we do as well is like a lot of nights when you have a commission meeting and there's so many different variables getting covered, and you have to have and sometimes it's just one variable, and you'll have maybe all four of the guys here. You'd have one at a meeting in the future unless it's absolutely necessary. So that work-life balance is going to be improved. Andy felt like he always had to be here, and then you might bring along some supporting cast, but it may be a particular agenda item. It's just Matt, or maybe one night it's just Shane, and I guess Shane would cover the majority of the planning commission agendas.
Yeah.
So if Commissioner Hefner, for example, or the mayor sitting on the planning committee, or anybody at the table, of course, asking questions about a development, Shane could answer those questions. So I think once we get acclimated to it and used to it, it'll be second nature. But I think Matt will probably get the majority of the calls because roads are just so important for us.
Yeah, and I think talk about it from a meeting standpoint. You have BPAC, you have Traffic Commission, you have Planning Commission, and Board of Commissioners. Those are the main meetings that we have. In addition, you have sometimes the HOA meetings after hours.
Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yeah, Board of Zoning Appeals. That's another one that Matt went to, I think.
Yeah.
And so you add all this up, and that becomes a lot just for one person to have to try to do. So if we can start to have it set up to where if it's development related, I honestly probably see Shane and the traffic engineer for the planning commission meetings, which would relieve Matt from those and frees him up for some of the other things. So the more that we can have those strategically balanced, I think the better off it's going to be for staff long term.
Right, and so each one of these would have their own budget.
Mm-hmm. And I can send you all a sort of a flow chart for what we have, and it's living, breathing. It's one of those things that I think that we can take and massage in the future. I'll go with what the Lord brings you. Didn't mean to spend too long on that, Kenny. Sorry.
No, I
I
thought
think
it
it's
was
good
perfect opportunity
discussion.
to explain that. I think it'll be a
Yeah.
good thing in time. Most other departments have figured it out, or other cities have figured it out. I was hesitant about it because we just were old school and always did it the way we did, but they enlightened me. I did some research. It seems more efficient that way. It seems a lot easier on the commission. It gives you that direct line to whichever person that you need. I think it'll make it easier too, as far as when you're trying to get in touch with somebody. If Andy's busy and he's your go-to guy, these guys will still be cross-trained in certain ways to be able to answer questions for you. So if Andy's just not available, you're like me, you want to be at that response, get your constituents an answer back, or get yourself an answer that you can share with others. And I think it gives you more people to do that instead of the one. I've been guilty of that as well. If I needed something, I'd call Andy. It just seems like the natural person to call is Andy.
Does that mean we have to add 4 more people to a pre-app meeting?
No. My hope is that we have less.
Yes, it's.
I see.
No, I mean, as pre-apps go today, I mean,
It's
you've
already a
got-
Mongolian mess in those things.
Yeah.
So with the number of people that you got in there.
Yeah. Well, and so for right now, we've got myself, Shane, Matt, Shorty is in there, and then we have Adam Metters for stormwater.
Going forward to be either me or Shorty.
Yeah.
Probably Majority me.
From a planning perspective, would there be an opportunity also to take and put planning and all the different factions within what used to be Public Works in a one email with a person doing the development job so that everybody has access?
So you're talking about like a development services kind of
That's
coordination level?
exactly what I'm talking
Mhm.
about. I've been asking for that for about 5 years now. Kenny?
I get, and I don't know that you're talking about specifically changing the department structure, but more communications. Is that right?
As long as the results is better than what it is right now, because I mean, right now, a developer coming in here or a small person coming in trying to get answers as to, and we've been going through this with that one lady, you know, bless her heart, she lost his last year's Easter egg.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're trying to get her answers, but we're getting, I got to get an answer from over here and an answer from over here. And, you know, so like you said, development services, we need to encapsulate that so that we've got one person to take in contact, maybe a liaison or something of that nature. And I see an opportunity here with you guys working together already
Yeah.
to put that together so that you've got that liaison or that service.
So like what we did before I became city manager, where you could call me and I'd say, oh gosh, you can't even do that there because the zoning won't allow it. And people just don't know that sometimes. So I think we do
Well,
something.
no, in this particular case, we're talking about a situation where a lady wants to open a business. But by the time she reaches out to planning says, oh, well, this is all you got to do. Well, then we got to reach out to Public Works or to transportation. And they say, oh, no, you got to do this. Oh, and by the way, once you get through this, then you got to get it approved through TDOT. It's a mess trying to get all that accomplished. And this woman has pretty much said, I'm just not going to do anything then.
Huh.
Just because of the stuff that she went through. I mean, like I said, it's a mess.
That's what the pre-app's for. And
She came to the pre-app meeting and some of the
She
stuff
was
that
just
she was
confused.
told at the pre-app meeting, there was something completely different was told to her after the fact.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I can come up with an idea that might help with that. We just have a one person before they even get to planning, get to Public Works, get to anybody else, start out with ECD if they're trying to start a business. And that way we can go, oh gosh, now we've done that a bunch. I mean, between Marty and I, we get calls like that all the time where somebody's trying to do something. Then you realize they don't have a business plan. They don't understand the cost that's involved. And then a lot of times it's somebody that's the real deal that knows what they're wanting to do. And it's about finding a place. Here's what you'll need to do. Here's what you won't need to do. Signage, zoning, you name it. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, yeah, by the time they go through, they're actually touching about 5 different departments in the city.
Yeah.
And getting different answers from each department. It's a little confusing.
Development coordinator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
Yeah,
an
none of them are supers. You ain't got to
Yeah.
You're the one going, it wasn't me. I didn't talk to him.
Tim gets them hooked up.
Yeah, but he's way down the road. You get that far, we're in good shape.
Yeah, you get to Tim, it's easy.
Yeah, we don't have that. Yeah, thanks for letting me know that. I mean, it's, maybe we need to do a little bit better job of advertising who they can call to get.
We changed it, like we've got some person
Yeah, this
who's
one's not
interested in something, I don't remember what,
Yeah.
and I gave him all the information. And he said, oh, well, I'm not near that far along. I'll contact you in another year or
that.
two.
This
And I
one's
was like,
not that.
fine.
This is a very simple little situation that, got turned
Huh,
around.
I wish you just forwarded them to me. I could have helped.
Yeah, well, it's a long story. We ain't gonna look at it. It's just something that really kind of highlighted some of our deficiencies.
Yeah.
Fortunately, not any in Andy's group, and they've been nothing but helpful, but some other areas that need to be worked on.
Yeah, just let me know now. I'll take care of it.
So where are we starting on the budget?
Well, okay, let's hit the high points. I think we've kind of hit all this.
What page is that in?
47. 47 is where we really start. That's highways and streets. So this really, I think the highlight there is the traffic engineer position, as I previously noted. There's not really a whole lot of change through this. It's 47, 48, and 49. I did want to hit on, I think what's usually one of the bigger points of interest is the machinery and equipment and transportation equipment. We are not asking for any transportation equipment this year. That's trucks, whatever. We are, however, we've got a need for a new excavator, a new system for sidewalk repair, which is a foam injection system, and then 2 new message boards, which, by the way, we are, and I'm sure the PD guys could say this as well. I think we're in need of more message boards citywide on occasions for special events. So
more what?
message boards.
Okay.
So while we've got that in our budget, that's something that is a need for all of us, for parks, for PD, for everybody. So those are the big highlights there for machinery and equipment. Fairly consistent with what we did last year. I did note in there, not necessarily something that I included myself, but the Christmas decorations for the streets. I think, Kenny, you've been working on that. I'll say as a resident, I think I like it.
Yeah, Mayor in particular, but some of the commissioners have been asking over the years. We tried many, many years ago about Christmas decoration. I think you all get asked every year on the poles. Yeah, the mayor was at a meeting with me. It's taken us many, many years to get permission through Middle Tennessee Electric to do it. The only downside is they won't let us connect into the electric. It was a major leak just to get to the pole. So what we're trying to do is find something. We're trying to find something maybe even that would be solar. So it's a win, but not a win-win. So we won't spend any money whatsoever unless it's something we feel like it's going to be something we can be proud of. But I went ahead and just earmarked what I felt like was a reasonable amount of money. Even if it's just decorations you see at daytime, it's a step. Because I know y'all catch it every year as to why we don't have Christmas decorations on the poles. Getting the president of Middle Tennessee Electric to allow us to do it was huge. We should have brokered that deal many, many years ago when Mountain Road was widened and we upgraded to the metal poles. But we never thought it would be an issue. But Middle Tennessee Electric would not let us. And we finally have brokered. We're a pretty good step, I feel like. So,
Well, I will tell you that over the years, I can't speak for Ms. Jennifer or Scott, but James and I have been telling everybody it was your fault.
yeah. That's fine.
I mean, as a city manager,
Yeah,
very
we want him
chintzy and did not want to do it.
Anti-Christmas.
No, he asked what I wanted for Christmas, and I told him.
Yeah, so it'll be a good step. Even if we can't get lit, we'll have something that's nice during the daytime. So I'm working on solar, but they are very hard to find. I can't believe with everything battery powered and technology that you can't find good solar powered. All of our school crossing lights for the most part are solar powered.
Right.
And they work quite well. So you're talking about low voltage LED. It shouldn't be that difficult. So thank y'all. Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll kind of move through it, and then we can kind of stop me if you want to. City garage, page 50. We've got obviously our new garage facility opened over there. I think the focus here, there's really not a whole lot of change other than I just want to make sure that we retain. We've got 2 excellent mechanics we've hired in the last couple of years, and they are doing an incredible job out there. And but we are the other departments are keeping us busy out there. I think there's a need for another mechanic, and taking the ones we've got and making sure that we can retain them because we are. I think the efficiency that we have right now is incredible. Rocky was telling me he's getting his oil changed in about 30 minutes, whereas before with what we had and just one person, he might get it the next day or the 2 days later. So
This one have a focus as well on EMS vehicles.
Yes.
And fire trucks. Before we had to have those serviced outside of the city, take them to Nashville, and that was killing us on maintenance and cost and diesel.
yeah, 100%. Chief Edwards is he's told us all many times how much better the service is on that. We are so I think that's the idea with the additional person is specifically trying to find somebody that can be working on the fire trucks a lot, or if not, take one of our mechanics that we currently have and get him more focused on that. We are going through a certification process on that, so I think that's just taking what we've got and maximizing it right now. Buildings and grounds, I think this is probably one of the bigger ones to kind of hit on. Dana hit on it earlier. Talked about, you see the building, you see that big $9 million number down there, and then some a little bit of money there for a remodel, upgrades, and things like that. That is at 115 Clemens Road, which you see it's kind of in the middle of the page on 51. Kenny could probably speak a little bit more to that. It's the old SNS building that's out there.
Yeah, and I've been making my way down sort of through the list of the commissioners about wanting to take and show you the building individually. I think it's an opportunity a lot like the Joy Church that we bought several years ago. We passed on it the first time. A 10-year period went by, and thank goodness we bought it because it's sustained us a pretty good while for the police department. We have a similar opportunity where I think we can buy a building for far less cheaper, a lot nicer building than what we could probably actually construct one for. It's very close to our existing public work site. The reason I think it's a great opportunity is because, for one, is it's basically all but move-in ready with just a few minor modifications, which Ms. Dana has added into the budget with the purchase of the building. Another thing that it does for us is that enables us to have a lot of indoor storage for a lot of stuff that we've got now. If the city hall here is to be built, a lot of your apparatus, your equipment, your side-by-side, your gators, your fire boats, your jet skis, things of that nature can go inside, plus any archives that we have to where we keep something inside would work in this. I think once you all see the building, it'll give you a little bit better idea of what I'm talking about. Again, at the end of the day, if you don't do it, that's understandable. But another thing I like about it is Commissioner Justice had said something a while back about the 10 acres we were buying on Clemens Road. With the uncertainty of cost for construction these days, it always says one thing and ends up being something else, as we all know. Construction just never seems to time-wise work out like they say it sounds good. But if you've got an existing building in hand with an opportunity to get it, I think we've got a good one with this. Plus, it saves your 10 acres that you just closed on for public works to buy the other 14 acres and have 24 acres for a park. I know there's been a lot of talk with this commission, which I appreciate, about a Jimmy Floyd Center or something similar, and some ball fields where we can actually have something like that in our community and maybe even bring some tournaments and things of that nature. 24 acres in the heart of Mount Juliet is very hard to find, especially when it's contiguous to other properties. You've got the park across the street from the existing public works facility. You got public works storage facility and garage. You've got the 10 acres you just bought, and if you bought the S&S building, which Commissioner Justice is very familiar with that building. He remembers when the previous building burnt and they had to build that one. I think we have a good opportunity. So if the commission decides not to do that, that money, of course, would not be spent. I'm in the process of going ahead proactively and getting a appraisal done on the building to see if that number makes sense. If it doesn't, we know some of the other costs because we've had an inspection done about what the building will need, and we were planning that if the commission sees fit to make an offer and subtract that out of the price. The Stilts building, S&S Industries.
S&S Industries.
Yes, sir. He's very familiar with that because I think he was part of the vote to expedite that process through the city for them to rebuild after it burned. And
Is 9 million what they're asking for?
yes, sir. The 9 million was based on comps. We're going to do an appraisal, and then we've had an inspection done. So what we feel like it would need. And again, at the end of the day, we'll go with the wishes of the commission. I just wanted to, the only way was to put it in there ahead of time to be proactive so that they're holding the building basically for us and giving us dibs before they market it. Of course, I think in their interest, it'd be better to sell the city than it would be to market it and then have to raise the price.
So you're talking about the old or the new building they rebuilt?
The newest building.
S&S
2000,
They,
2008.
they were leasing it to Brentwood Auto Brokers. Brentwood Auto Brokers closed. And then they were going to try to release it. I reached out to them and asked them if they would consider selling to the city. They asked Miss Stilts, who is still living.
Right.
And I think with her age and older, they would entertain selling to the city. They feel like that'd be a good use of the city, but if we're not interested, they're going to list it.
And I guess a couple of statistics on that. It's an 80,000 square foot building. They did give us the mechanical plans for it, so we do have some information on that. The office space, I think, is around 11,000 square feet.
Maybe 16.
Yeah, maybe 16.
Yeah, it's about
Maybe I got it
16,000
wrong.
square feet with 34 offices.
Yep.
So once you see it,
And what would we use it for?
it would be, we'd move the entire public works department into it, the building department, which is downstairs, which I think creates some continuity between those two departments since they do so much work together, and also the fire administration. And so what that
The
would,
building being built on the acreage over on Clemens Road, a little farther down, wouldn't be needed. I
It
mean,
wouldn't-
you're
it wouldn't
talking
be-
about doing another 14 acres over there.
it wouldn't be needed. So if you bought the 14 acres plus the 10 you just bought, you'd have 24 acres of parkland for a future, as the commission been talking about, possibly pool, Jimmy Floyd Center, outdoor recreation areas, sports complex. I'd heard those different things. And again, that's just,
We would still need a little bit of area just for sheds.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that the property does lack, but those are very cheap, very efficient.
and again, that's entirely up to the commission. I just saw it as an opportunity. It's worth pitching. There's no cost to the city really for looking at it. And like I said, I'll be getting with the entire commission about taking a tour. I've got a code to get in the building and
I mean, yeah, you're going to get comps.
exactly.
How you gonna get comps on that building? There is nothing here like it. Nothing's been sold.
I mean, if-
Good luck.
That's
Wow.
the reason for the
I guess
appraisal.
look at building costs and compare it.
You're
What
gonna
the
have to
current
look at
building cost per square foot
per square foot's the only thing you're gonna be able to look at.
to replicate that in today's dollar.
Mhm.
Andy, would that be considered an industrial building?
It is. I think it's industrially zoned.
Is it warehouse or
It
is
is a
an
warehouse,
office?
yeah.
Big part of it's warehouse.
slash
Most-
offices.
mostly
It's-
warehouse.
it's
The whole-
both.
The whole
It's got
front's
offices
office.
already built out in it?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. 34 offices, and then there's break rooms, things of that nature, and then
Really?
there's,
80,000 square feet.
yes, sir,
So that's
80,000
about
total.
$112 a square foot.
Mhm.
Call Hayden Hill.
One of the things I think to note is that as we've discussed, the city hall, this whole property redevelopment plan, which is, I don't know where that'll go, but if that does happen, we've got sewer, our offices, we've got street shop, signal shop, we've got all those basically right over here behind us. And so we would need somewhere to go. So our only options are to build something or that's move-in ready. We can all vacate pretty quickly.
What's the address?
115 Clemens Road. There is a storage building on the right side. There's a drive going in and a storage building on the right side.
It's right before you get the Husky Lumbers. on
It
the
is.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, let it
Basically
right
right-
across,
almost right
right
across.
across the street.
If you, Jim, if you see Husky Lumber and look to the left, it's a long driveway goes off.
It's the building that sits back off the
Yeah,
road.
way back off. the
Commissioner,
road.
I can take you because I have the code. If you want to meet any commissioners, I get you into the building. So, thank you.
All right.
The other thing I did want to mention there, we do have the land in there for, in our budget, for the purchase of the remaining. We had the 24 acres of the property that we looked at. We purchased 10. This would be, as we have in our contract, for the first right of refusal for the remaining portion. And so that is in there. We did note that's for future city uses. You could have fire hall replacement, rec center, a nice 100,000 square foot rec center that could be used to house volleyball, basketball tournaments, things like that. I think that's a fantastic spot. We've talked with Chief Edwards and Rocky Lee, Director Lee on that. Both really like that location. Both very centrally located. And I think one from a fire hall standpoint, I know we had the discussion at the meeting last week about service of Bender's Ferry Road. That puts it within that 5 miles with that location right there, because we could put something right next to the WEMA station. Additionally, East Hill Street would push through that property eventually over to Golden Bear Gateway. So there's good connectivity.
When you move that station there, I think you'll remove coverage for Chandler Point, Cobblestone, and Normandy Heights.
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause we don't quite reach about 30, 40 houses in the back of Chandler right now.
Cobblestone Landing, don't know if they're in Davidson County or Parson anyway.
So, but anyway, that's in here. I mean, that's one of those things I wouldn't say necessarily for our use, but being that this was one of the places we had for the budget last year, we just carried it on over.
Sports complex, I understand, is about 20 acres.
Yeah, you could probably, I mean, it could be 10. You could probably fit on about 8 to 10 acres, I would imagine, depending on what size you want to go with. If you wanted to add a
Little
pool.
League is 39 and a half acres.
What I looked at as far as some other comparable type facilities, I laid out 100,000 square foot building. Hendersonville, I think it was Hendersonville or Gallatin just announced theirs was just under 100,000 square foot for a recreational type complex.
Is this not parks that we're talking?
It is,
Okay,
but
so-
I've just tried to lay it out.
Appreciate the thought, but
No.
actually, when I asked Rocky about that land over there, he wanted nothing to do with it.
He told me he would love to have it. He said
he
he
told me
wants a
flat
Jimmy
out he
Floyd,
won't even
and it's
do
a
it.
perfect spot.
I just tell you, I'm just repeating what I
Well,
was.
the one thing good is ultimately it's up to the commission.
Mhm.
What they want to proceed with. As
No,
far
it's
as
up to the parks director. We can run the city or the parks department. So I'm just telling you what we were told, what I was told.
Well, if we don't allocate money, we won't be able to make that decision without a budget ordinance.
Correct. Yeah. Anyway,
Granted.
not to belabor that too more. I think that's another discussion. That's not for me. Moving along, we get to skip a little bit. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yeah, go ahead.
The conditions on buying the 10 acres. The price was contingent on buying the rest of it, correct? Am I
The
remembering that
price-
correctly?
No.
The price on the 10 was lower if we bought the
the
remaining
14.
acres,
We
the
would
the
want to
14.
get the discount on the following 10 when we, so if you.
So if we don't buy if I'm just
We've already paid
thinking,
what we're going to pay.
okay, so there's
Yeah.
not going to be any
No,
additional.
They don't come back after
That's all I need to
money.
know.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking ahead, make sure.
No.
I think the only thing to that is we got a pretty good price per acre on the remaining.
Yeah, we
So
put it
they're
in
gonna
there.
honor. It's discounted per acre
That's right.
if we come back and get the other two.
And that's why we put it in there. If the commission says, hey, we don't want it, we'll let the owner know that, and then we will have already closed and paid for the 10 acres. we
Right.
bought. I just didn't want that year to expire without you guys having an opportunity to see it to buy it, because we only get one shot at it.
Moving along, page 57, you've got State Street Aid Fund, more or less the same on that.
Way more than you should.
We did add, I think, Kenny, you can speak, or you might want to speak a little bit to it, LED lights on Mount Juliet Road. That's the project that we've got. It's pretty straightforward, but I don't know if there's any questions. That's just upgrading everything. Same kind of projects that we've done on Lebanon Road, et cetera.
That's what you and I talked to the guy.
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. It's basically just if the city wanted to, there's still a little bit of work to be done. That's also in conjunction with Middle Tennessee Electric. They don't currently do LED upgrades. There's a high pressure sodium lights that are along Mount Juliet Road now. If the city chose to do LEDs, we'd have all that worked out and have it in budget. But we don't have to spend that if the commission doesn't want to. But I wanted to be proactive simply because of materials. If we do decide to go forward,
What
we'll
was
have
the
already.
cost? We're trying to think.
280.
Yeah, it's 180 or 200 total.
And that was
To upgrade all the lights along Mount Juliet Road from the high pressure sodium, which look orange,
the orange lights.
Yeah,
to LED.
to LED. And it's, we gotta get, go through TDOT and all that, but that don't have anything to do with funding. It's just their approval. And I think we can get there. Give you an example, Brentwood's doing the same thing right now. They're spending 4.5 million. So they have a lot more street lights, so a lot more cost.
And how did we get by without going through TDOT on Lebanon Road?
It was because we didn't, we only added a couple of poles and it met the state's, what do you call it, lighting?
Yeah.
It's an easy thing. TDOT just basically makes sure that we're not doing anything that's going to create issues with TDOT standards.
TDOT still checked the Lebanon Road.
Yeah.
they do.
We still had to get it
Yeah, it's
approved.
just a formality, but it's something we got to make sure we do.
Did we recently add a light on South Green Hill?
Street light.
I don't
Street
think-
light.
Did it come
think
with the
so.
traffic signal, Andy, like you've upgraded those to add?
No,
light?
this is down by Mount Vernon
Oh, I
entrance.
got you.
I didn't know who put that
think
light
so.
there, but it's angled like a high beams of a car coming when you
Is
go
it
over
on
the
the
hill.
corner?
It's it's on the street, right across from the entrance. And it's pointed right in your eyes.
Marty, can
Really?
you check that out tomorrow, maybe after hours?
That'd have to be a property owner, wouldn't it?
Could
I
be.
don't know who put it up.
I have a,
Side of the street, is it?
have a,
Is it on an electric pole?
It's on the west side. Yes.
Okay.
Wasn't it?
That one wasn't relocated with the roundabout, right?
No.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Shane.
it's probably like right at the edge of the project or past it.
Water. Was it wastewater?
Maybe West Wilson.
Wilson,
Yeah,
sorry.
it could have.
West Wilson could
that
have
makes
added it.
sense. That's
Yeah,
right. You're
that's-
probably right. Mayor, right there.
It probably needed there with that neighborhood entrance,
Yeah.
but
Probably West Wilson.
it'd probably be angled
You're
about
right.
20 degrees differently.
Yeah, because it wasn't my project.
I think now move on to the capital projects fund. For that, I'll let Matt tackle it. Just kind of hit the highlights there.
All right. If you look on the last page of the capital projects fund, 65, got a $40 million increase from last year. That's primarily due to the police station headquarters is in our budget for 15 million, and then we have the 25 million for the Central Pike interchange.
What page is that on?
65.
61 is where it
It
starts.
summarizes the totals for the capital projects.
So,
Um,
since nobody's brought this up yet, I'm sure we're getting there, but then if I'm premature, let me know. But when we get to talking about that $25 million, and we talk about a commitment to TDOT, I think what we need to talk about is that commitment of $25 million being spread amongst several projects rather than just one project.
Yeah, I think.
For instance, you and I talked about right-of-way acquisition on Lebanon Road and expediting that using, the right-of-way. Yeah, we've got right-of-way coming up that's going to have to be purchased on South Mount Juliet Road. And I'm sure there's other locations.
TDOT's already got that budgeted for South Mount Juliet.
Oh, that's right. They just left out Lebanon
Yeah,
Road.
we don't have to worry about
Oh, I
that.
forgot about that. Okay. So
I think one of the important things to do or to note is that part of this is that there's a contract amendment that has to come through for the interchange, or also we have to have a contract for Central Pike widening with TDOT, because as it stands, we're going to starting the process, at least to try to speed up the widening portion that's within our boundary. And so I think to the point of what we met with as a commission before is that we don't want to just sit here and throw out $25 million and have no change in the time frame.
we don't know what the time frame is.
Correct. Well,
So
we have.
don't know if they're going to expedite it or not.
We have verbals as far as the timeframes in what fiscal years TDOT is looking to get the projects to construction. We do not have anything contractually or in a hard commitment. And so I think that's the next step, that I'm actually hopeful that me going to TDOT, I'll be able to have the opportunity to try to help bridge the gap between the city's commitment there and TDOT's commitment to expedite the projects. And so I think we definitely, there's still some steps that need to be taken on that. I know from practically speaking, TDOT has really turned on the pressure on their design engineer for the interchange, and they have expressed to us that the schedule has been increased already for them. So I do know that they are working in that direction, but we as a city, we need to have something at least more formal. And I think that's one of the things that remains to be done. Now, so saying that, we've got the $25 million in here. This is not something that's going to be spent this year. I think the idea is that it's going to be one of those, and there's probably a few different ways to slice it, but I think ultimately we're looking for something a little more concrete as far as whether it's a contract or something like that.
One of the conversations that I had with Gino when we were talking about the contract, $25 million, is, first of all, how do we determine that we're going to have anything expedited? We may wind up with paying them $25 million and getting what we were always going to get. And we don't have any way of determining that. So what are we actually getting other than we're getting a bypass built? It's going to bypass one of our biggest sales tax drivers as far as profits. And so we're basically doing that because all these people are coming from south of here. You and I have had this conversation. And they're coming from Rutherford County. They're coming from Davidson County. They're coming through us, and we're going to wind up driving them straight to the interstate and away from anything that provides sales tax in the city of Mount Juliet. And then we're spending $25 million. It sounds to me like that's counterproductive, rather than productive. So we're going to have some assurances. I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable in any shape, form, or fashion right now with $25 million just wholesale laying it out without there being a lot more in place and putting it on the budget so we don't have control over it later. We need to have control over it. We put it in the budget. Once we put it in the budget, it's done. The commission has nothing else to say about it.
No, you would have control and say over the contract.
But the contracts, Andy, you and I both know this, TDOT's contracts are going to favor TDOT. They're not going to favor the city of Mount Juliet. And TDOT, if they don't favor TDOT, then TDOT will just put them on the back burner. And we sit there with $25 million in a contract and get nothing out of it. I'm not comfortable doing that to taxpayers either.
We're not going to spend any money if this isn't moving the needle.
Correct. Put it in the
Exactly.
budget. When they need it, we put it in the budget then. But why would we put it in the budget prior to knowing what it's going to go for and prior to having a contract.
My
Let's
take
just
on it,
hold off on that until we have some assurances.
my take for putting into the budget is making sure that we financially account for it, so that Dana,
We've
Kenny,
already,
that
we've
we're
already
accounting
said
for it.
in a resolution to that effect.
Mhm.
That's why I think it needs to be accounted for.
It's not going to be easily accounted for. Not when you have TDOT fixed to extract it from our taxpayers. I'm not comfortable with it.
Well, I mean, here's the question. I mean, are we going to continue to invest in the city and expand our tax base? Or are we just going to let it all sit on South Mount Juliet Road?
Well, it's
And I mean,
already
if
all
we
sitting
don't,
on Mountain Jack,
if
Mountain
we
Road.
don't, I mean, if we continue to do the same thing and just hope it gets done, I mean, that's it, we're hoping. But, we got to move the needle. And I think that when we met with them, I think the number was about 10 years for when they expected to get us a project on this. So.
They committed to us verbally fiscal year 26.
Right.
for
And I mean,
construction.
we've seen the numbers now that bring it down from maybe 5 to 6 from 10, but we need to see what that's going to happen. And I mean, some of that, what things we talked about was what's this worth? What's that do? How many more areas does this open up for us for a new tax base to be collected?
And I think that is one of the things to keep in mind. Providence Central, the zoning on that, I think the opportunities you have there. This is not widening a piece that's out in the county. This is widening a piece that goes through the heart of the city, and it is an interstate interchange. I think your commercial opportunities there for sales tax and time are more than going to pay for that.
I don't agree with that at all. I mean, we're taking people that have been going to Providence, they see these stores, they stop. There's a lot of impulse shopping goes in that location. Now you're going to take, before they ever get to Providence, you're going to be turning them going back to a different location, getting on the interstate and going out of Mountain Juliet. You're providing a bypass for them. I'm not saying it's not needed either. Okay. I want to get them people out of Mountain Juliet as fast as I can. But we got to figure out what the cost
But
is.
that's assuming that Providence Central never develops and there's nowhere to shop there.
Well, so we're going to take and exchange what we were getting at Providence and put it over into Providence Central. So we wind up with a net zero.
No.
We wind up just with the same.
How many more
dollars, just
people
going
will
to different
shop in
locations.
Providence when they can get there?
And they're not going to be put in a position where they're going to be stopping over there. They're going to be getting on the interstate and getting out of Mountain Juliet.
I'd pose this question. How much tax dollars are we losing because people on the north side of the city don't want to drive over that bridge because they get stopped at Old Lebanon Dirt Road every Friday afternoon?
We won't really have that much of a problem until we get into Providence.
No, I have a problem every Friday afternoon. It took me 30 minutes to get from my house on Old Lebanon Dirt Road to the movie theater.
So why don't we widen South Mount Juliet Road? Why don't
Doesn't
we put
do
the money in
anything.
widen? You've got one road that runs in both north and south directions.
It doesn't
One
do
road.
anything. Our
Just moves the traffic.
problem is at the interstate.
Well, it does. Just move the traffic.
Moves the
I mean,
traffic
At least
jam
it's
further
moving.
out.
It's not standing still.
But it doesn't. But you're still not opening up any new areas for development, new areas for tax dollars to be generated. You don't open up an entire north side of the interstate there. And nobody talks about what's going to happen on the north side of the interstate when that's got an interchange to get to it. I mean, that's a whole nother game changer there for the city. Think of what Golden Bear is shaping out to be. And we're opening up another area about that for investment. And I think a one-time expenditure for $25 million is going to reap dividends many times over.
I agree.
I'm not saying it's not. All I'm saying is I want some assurances before we take and just stick money in
That's
there.
fair enough.
I think that's definitely fair, and I think that's one of the things that I think it remains that is one of those things that has to be settled. Definitely.
And I also want some of that 25 million put over into my district over here rather than everything going into, no offense intended, all right?
It's his district.
Mine. What?
It is now.
You are offended? Is that what you're trying to
You
say?
offended them both.
I can say this
Central
too.
Providence Central is in.
Well, I'm just saying,
Double
I've
fees.
got that section over there. They didn't put any money in the budget for right-of-way acquisition. And I think that they finished the report, if I'm not mistaken, after TDOT had already decided how much, where they're going to put the money. So the report wasn't available for right-of-way. Am I correct in that?
That's correct, yeah.
So now it is. And so we were talking to Will Reed about taking some of that $25 million and putting some of that into the right-of-way acquisition over there to show our need to go over there and expedite the Lebanon Road project. I mean, you think you got a problem over here in the south end of town, go over and try and get from Lebanon Road, Mount Juliet Road to the other side of Bender's Ferry and see what it looks like.
Well, the difference is this project on Central Pike is a point to a destination, which is the interstate, which any traffic that funnels into this improvement winds up somewhere.
People that are trying to get home.
Lebanon Road,
That's
once
their
you widen
destination.
Lebanon Road, you move your bottleneck further east.
Okay, I'm trying to get people to their homes.
I
They
get
live
that.
out Bender's Ferry Road. They live up here in Stone Hollow. Now, and granted, they got other ways to get there, but that's not. Have you seen the traffic out there?
Yes, I have.
I mean, it starts at West Wilson Utility and goes all the way to the red line.
I understand that.
And we can't get TDOT to do anything, so we're going to have to expedite this. And I'm not comfortable at all spending all of our money over in the south end while my people over here get screwed out of an opportunity.
Well, I think the money will be there next budget cycle. Maybe wrong, but you've got to get the reports done in time. So,
Mr. Barlow has already said that he felt like it would be a good gesture and he thought it would go farther if we put money into that.
I'm not arguing with you on that. I'm just saying it's not taking the extent of the traffic to a destination. It's taking the extent of the traffic to another 2-lane bottleneck.
Well, that's the county's problem at that point.
It's still going to be our problem. It's still going to be people
But it's
sitting there.
not ours. We need to get people through that intersection and get that whole
Correct.
section expedited.
But just adding lanes through there is not going to fix traffic, and that's the bottom line.
Okay, no, that's actually where we've taken the development and we have used the development money, the off-site dollars to develop that whole section and get these people to their place. So you're saying that regardless, we're not going to put anything over there to help those people. Is that what you're saying?
I did not say that.
That's kind of
and
what I
you
heard.
won't put those words in my mouth,
Well, that's
but
kind
I'm
of what I
just
heard.
saying it's not going to fix the problem. It's
We're gonna
still
go here.
going to end up into a 2-lane section head into 109.
Well, you figure out how to get the county off dead center and I'll worry about getting my people to their houses. And that's kind of what my job is.
This is not a county versus you getting people to the houses. It's just a fact. When you take 5 lanes and dead end them into 2 lanes, it will create a bottleneck there.
So you're saying that nothing we do is going to fix that problem, so we don't do nothing?
No, I don't know why you keep saying I'm saying something,
Because
because
you're
I am
based-
not saying it.
Well, then
I'm
tell me
saying
what to
you're
do.
moving your bottleneck further down the road. It's not the end solution.
No, it is
Isn't
a-
that the same
Huh?
with South Mount Juliet Road?
It pretty much is the same.
It
exactly.
is the same. We're going to back up there where you run into it, but the traffic coming into Providence is going to have a way to get through, and we're going to split the demand off that or the load.
I think that's his point is, your point is.
There's not splitting anything. We're just moving it further out.
You're creating a bypass.
All I am saying is there's a difference in the amount of returns in the 2 projects. I'm not saying that anyone else's commute is worth more or worth less than somebody else's, but I'm just saying
Well,
as to
$25
which-
million is saying that. You're going to put 25 million up there to that commute, but you're going to put 0 to that commute. I'd say that pretty much sets the priority right there.
Sir, you voted for it.
I didn't have a whole lot of choice. I also voted to get this money down here that TDOT gave back to us, over $6 million that we put into
then
that.
don't-
Andy, you remember that?
Then don't attack TDOT publicly if you don't want them to hold the projects to the last minute.
Exactly. That's what it is. You let them sit in and hold the projects up and then don't say anything to hold them accountable. And when you do, you become the bad guy because you said something ugly and hurt their feelings.
Well,
That's exactly what you're saying. We don't hold the state accountable. That sounds to me
that's
to be
not
the
what I'm
ultimate
saying.
problem
I'm
right
saying there's a difference between trying to work with TDOT and trying to demonize TDOT. If you want somebody to work
I've been
with
working
you,
with
work
TDOT
with
for
them.
20 years and got nothing accomplished up there. 17 years we've been talking
Well,
about that
as you-
section of road. And nothing's happened.
Well, why don't we have an executive session and discuss
We already have
this?
several.
Okay, so we're on Public Works budget here. Can we move forward?
We're only $25 million portion of Public Works.
Yeah.
That's
and we-
what I was
And we
asking
voted
about.
for, all of us voted for a
To
resolution.
put- Exactly. $25 million go to TDOT.
It was,
Resolution is not it's not an agreement. It's not a contract.
And it's not binding.
Yeah. That's been mentioned before.
The res-
Resolutions are not binding.
And we all voted for it.
Oh,
Right.
resolutions are law.
Well, resolutions are not binding and can be changed.
Anything can be changed. Just another resolution, another ordinance will change an ordinance.
The resolution we passed was for the interchange and Central Pike widening. So it is both.
I'm sorry, Andy, say it again.
It was for the Central Pike interchange and roadway widening. So it can be those two projects is what we had allocated it to. The reason we did that is we knew that we had the money already budgeted for the right-of-way widening for South Mountain Juliet Road. And we were hopeful that the right-of-way funding for the Lebanon Road widening would come through. And so that was still in the in-between stages for environmental documents. So I think that's, the idea was putting the money where we felt like we could improve South Mount Juliet Road. We can do all these other things, but access to and from the interstate, that's our failing point as a city right now.
And I'm confident that Lebanon Road is going to get its funding and
I am.
move
Mhm.
right through.
But how far down the road is that going to be?
I think it'll be the next budget cycle. I have no reason to believe it wouldn't have been approved this time if the paperwork hadn't been ready.
Well, you're talking about 2.5 years for right-of-way acquisition. Then you're looking at what, Andy, once that starts another year and a half. So we're looking at 5 years.
construction.
We've been on the engineering for that particular piece over there since November 2017. It was when we hired Volkert. All right. So November 2017, it's 5, 6 years, 7 years of engineering.
And I mean, how many parcels are we talking about there, Andy?
50.
50. So how long? That's what's going to take so long.
Mhm. And a couple of relocations.
How many parcels on Central Pike?
Central Pike is much fewer.
Some
Mount
larger
Juliet Road is
landowners
about-
over there.
Yeah. South Mountain Juliet Road is about the same. Matt, do you remember? It's about 50,
Yeah.
60.
About 50.
To contrast that, Old Lebanon Dirt Road, how many?
90.
How many?
90.
90?
Yeah.
That's our
On Old
biggest
Lebanon Road.
biggest internal project probably ever.
It is. I think one of the things to keep in mind on all these projects, we spent a lot of money on Golden Bear Gateway. We spent, as it was, the construction contract on that one was over 14 million. You add in the design engineering on that and all the right-of-way acquisition, we were well over 20. And then you add in the other phases of that as well.
Golden
And-
Bear?
Yeah, on
That was
Golden Bear.
23.
And then, if you add in everything that going down to the interstate, that everything else that's all been done, I mean, and the pieces that's yet to be done, we're probably going to be, we're way, way, way on out in that. But then you factor in the opportunities that it's brought along, and particularly now that we've got Costco coming out there and then other opportunities, I think you're looking at a similar type of situation where you've got with this money going to Central Pike Interchange, there will be some other opportunities for these types of commercial stuff. It might not be something we see day one, but I think in time we'll look at the investment to the city as something that we're glad that we did in the long run.
Well, I do have a concern over budgeting this $25 million when we don't have a contract from TDOT, not even a first draft. And I say that because of a comment that Gino made at the last BOC meeting when I drew to his attention that there was a term for convenience in there that was non-mutual. And his comment was, they never change their contracts. I mean, it's almost verbatim. As long as I've been working with them, they've never changed their contract. I mean, so with that being said, I mean, I'd like to see what the contract would look like before we commit $25 million in a budget.
I think typically we're taking money from TDOT. This time we'll be giving money to TDOT, so we may have some more leverage in that situation.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
one of the questions that I had asked about
But
that
they are
was
TDOT.
very simple. Right? How many years is this going to expedite the timeline?
Right.
So, I mean,
And
$25
it
million.
went from 10 years to 5 years. So
Okay,
they
5
increased
years,
it
I
5
would
years.
probably say it's worth it, but we need to put a price on what that individual year looks like so that we know what we're getting for the money. I mean, if it's 2 years, is it worth $25 million? I got a hard time swallowing
It's-
that.
No, I'll answer that. It's not.
Okay, well, then my point exactly. If it's 3 years, okay, we're getting there. Okay, 4 years, 5 years, I'd jump all over it.
Here,
But considering they said it was going to take 2.5 years just for the right of way,
see, I don't understand the big runway on the right of way though, because I mean that's roughly the same time frame as Lebanon Road.
they said 2.5 years is what I was told. And then there was
On Central
also
Pike interchange.
right of way relocation or
It's what
Central Pike interchange.
It won't take 2.5 years.
we don't have anything on the south for that we need.
No,
they hadn't sent
it's all
any letters out.
dedications.
Nothing.
Yeah, the
There's
letters
a
have
little
gone
on the
out.
south end.
Well, they haven't gone after the property owners.
There's that one parcel on the south side, and I've at least got a commitment for someone to take care of that for us. And then the north side, 3, 4 property owners.
Yep, I think that's about it.
I don't. That's a question I have. I don't understand how that takes 2 years.
No,
It
and I
takes
don't
6
believe,
months per owner. You
I don't
work that-
believe there's any
You work that math out
relocations.
on Old Lebanon Dirt Road, and that's 45 years.
I think a big difference here is no relocations expected. That's, to me.
Then you've got also utility relocation.
Yeah.
After you've got the right of way identified. They said utility relocation, 82 years.
It'd probably be less than that on this one.
But on Lebanon Road, what is all of the are they just doing research on the property owners and contacting them? Are
No.
they actually out to spend money on buying right now?
On Lebanon Road,
Yes.
nothing. Mm-mm.
So it just needs engineering starting.
No, engineering.
Well, I'm not
engineering's-
engineering, but somebody to start contacting the parcels.
The final plans have, like, not the final plans, the final funding for that has to be in place.
Well, right. I mean, my question is there anything we can do outside of just buying the property, like moving it ahead through title research or deed research or some of the stuff that we see going on the Lebanon Dirt Road? Is
We've
there stuff like
inquired.
that we can do that's going to keep it going, and then the state allocates the money in the next budget cycle for doing the actual purchases?
We've inquired about some of that before. Some of that was before the expedited project delivery that TDOT's unveiled, before that took place. I have my doubts about the answer that we got. The answer was no, we could not do the title searches ahead of time. I believe that we can. And I think that's one of those efficiency gains that I think that we need to realize. And again, I think that's a benefit where once I move to the other side of the fence on that, I think that hopefully there's some push can be made there.
Yeah. See, that's something that keeps the ball rolling at a cost of hundreds of thousands versus millions.
We as the city, I mean, the title searches, it takes a long time.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. Like,
I mean,
how can
I
we
want to
get that
go ahead and
rolling?
knock it out. I think we can.
So do we need to put a budget item in
So,
for Lebanon?
Andy and I talked about an amount of 500,000.
we have, it's on page 62 of your capital projects. It's the second project there, Lebanon Road widening. You've got $500,000 there remaining for engineering. That's just earmarked for the remaining construction plan development, which is the next phase of plans. Easements and land is where you would want to put some money. I think there's a couple of different ways to slice that. You could say, hey, we're going to put $500,000 in there and that'll take care of title searches, et cetera. You could say, hey, we want to put in 20% match on a $15 million right-of-way acquisition price, which is probably fairly accurate.
Why don't you take the time from now and first reading and figure out what we can do on that?
Okay.
If it's $500K, I think we could find 3 votes for that, if that'll keep that project moving.
Well, if it's 20% of the did you say 15 million, Andy?
Yeah, and that's just,
Approximate.
and I'm pulling a number
3 million.
based on South Mount Juliet Road. South Mount Juliet Road is anticipated to have some relocations. What was the right-of-way estimate on that, Matt? Do you remember?
Which one?
South Mount Juliet Road.
17 million.
This is
Just
slightly
for right-of-way.
shorter,
So if our portion of that, if we did 20% and the
3 million.
3.4 million.
Yeah, if you said it's going to be 15 million, then if you said $3 million and we've got your match, state, you don't have to put any money, just find some find some federal money and you don't have to put a dime into it.
Well,
then
they've already found the federal money. It's the reason it's been held up to begin with, but
no. I
well,
don't,
they took our money and gave it back to us. The 6 million that we had originally dedicated was given back to us.
that was when the Improve Act came on.
And they did the Improve Act, and then they went and got federal money to actually replace the 6 million. So that's, I don't think they're going to find any more federal money.
Adjusted for inflation, that's like $20 million these days.
But based on everything I'm hearing right now, the largest portion of that $23 million project is about $15.5 to $16 million of right of way that we're going to have to purchase, or that we being.
Well, yeah. That's why I'm asking is like, what can we be doing? Just get it lined up, like go close the deals. Here you go, state.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of starting next year, square one, let's go start have these conversations with the landowners.
Mm-hmm. One of the other steps you can do is have an appraiser. I mean, it's easy.
Have what?
Appraisers. Go ahead and get the appraisals on board.
Yeah.
So title searches, appraisals, review appraisals, and then start your negotiation. And that's when the real money hits.
And I don't even think you'd be in the position to really start spending money anyway within a calendar year started today with that
Correct.
process, much
That's
less
correct.
July 1.
Mm-hmm. Matt.
We'll talk with TDOT and see if they'll allow that. I don't know. They told us no the first time, but we did ask that question if we could get started with title searches,
And they said no.
and they said no.
Was that about Lebanon Road or just in
Lebanon
general?
Road, yeah.
Any project.
I'm sorry.
They said that about any federally funded project, but I disagree.
So what if we just did it?
Yeah.
Are they going to throw it in the garbage and say we got to start over? That'd be a nice Phil Williams story.
Yeah. I know a guy at TDOT now.
It just seems to make too much sense.
All right. I think we've covered capital projects enough. Unless y'all have any specific questions about any of the projects. The only new transportation project we're adding this year is a traffic signal at East Division and Golden Bear Ramp. And that's 100% funded by Amazon. It was one of their requirements to do a analysis of the intersection after they opened, and it did warrant a signal there. So they deposited the money not too long ago. And so we're going to manage the bid and construction of that.
That also includes just that intersection, street lights on the poles.
Yep.
Format stuff. That's
Mhm.
good. That's a nice upgrade.
Yep. But all the other projects we're moving along, pushing along as fast as we can.
I think that's got the capital projects. I don't want to belabor things too long. I know y'all are ready to go. Moving along to page 68, we've got the stormwater fund. Did want to highlight a little bit here. Tim had, I think, in the idea of, I think for what you all are going to be receiving a lot more of in the upcoming year is all it's going to take is one rain event, and you're going to start to have a lot of calls. I've got a clogged drain. I've got this, the easy low hanging fruit type stuff. We've got personnel requests in there. We've got the 2 stormwater maintenance positions, which I think Tim's got some great ideas on that and a truck. So you go to page 69, you've got the 1 F-250 with a wrap. I think, Tim, you got some really good ideas on what you can do with a wrap,
We'd like
wrap
to
there.
get a presence on the street, have a crew of 2, cleaning out culverts, drains, highly advertised. This is the stormwater department. Get the truck wrapped. Don't call it truck 1, 5.
Start numbering at 5.
Yeah. But really, have a crew out for response and, proactive maintenance and just cleaning out culverts where there's known problems or existing problems.
Creeks.
Yeah. Whatever needs to happen. Also, if it's beyond the scope of what 2 guys or two laborers in a truck can do, we can also bring sewer in with a hydrovac truck, especially the one we're asking for in the budget. We could bring that in, help clean out storm boxes, any assistance they need, we could bring the sewer department in to assist with that on the bigger equipment.
Great idea. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry about that. I want to brag on Tim because we were having our meeting about that. You guys, of course, like with any time you pass anything new, you guys take some heat for that. It gives you a day one presence out there that actually truly makes a difference. With the visibility alone, you'll see that they're doing it. It's already started. So they don't feel like they're getting nothing in the interim until they can get the bigger projects going. And it's amazing sometimes what you can do with some storm drain cleaning out, some silt removal from some ditch lines that have just over time, they just get filled up. So thank you for that.
And I'm going to ask a sticker question here. There's the fact that we're talking about mingling two enterprise funds. Does that create a problem anywhere with the comptroller?
What?
We have both the stormwater utility and the sewer utility have to act independently of anything else. So.
And of each other. I mean,
yes, and of each other.
They can't commingle assets between one utility and the other utilities.
Right. So there would have to be almost like a fee charged. Whereas Tim's salary is going to be split now between stormwater and sewer. So half of his time will be dedicated to stormwater, half will be sewer. So that is split. The same with our sewer billing. Alex and Ashley, their salaries will now be split because their time is split between both of them. So yes, in a sense, you have to be careful when you're commingling. There just has to be some benefit from one to the other.
I knew that there was some restriction there. I just didn't know what it was.
Also, if you want to up the number, if we want to bring more crews in, then we can get those guys, girls, whoever trained. I just thought maybe we'll get a good start, a good presentation, good presence on the road. But if you guys want to go further with that, let's do it.
I agree. I mean, you're talking about let's find something we can do that's going to make an impact like that. And I mean, cleaning out a culvert, I mean, it doesn't change the world, but it could change the person behind the culvert's world.
Right. Well,
I think that's what you're going to do.
you're getting a lot of attention over there now from the sewer department. So
Where's that?
Belinda's
Oh, yeah.
The increase in, back on 68, the increase in permanent employee salaries. It's 2022, 2023 was 188,000. Projection 185, and now it's 533,000. What's the increase? I see we're adding down at the bottom. What's the roughly $350,000 increase?
That's where right now Tim's salary is all in sewer and Ashley and Alex's is all in sewer. It's split. So now you'll see sewer actually go down. Sewer billing will go down on their salaries because a portion of it is moving over to stormwater. And then we've added that last stormwater ordinance added 2 positions to the stormwater. Now that it has revenue to support that, and that's what they are going to be working on. So it added a clerk's position I added a clerk's position in sewer, but moved one of my sewer clerks into stormwater because pretty much their time's going to be split with billing, but instead of splitting both of their salaries, I just put one in sewer and one in stormwater. It just made sense to do that. And then the utility manager's salary that was just approved is
So
in
the
there as
bottom,
well.
those are 2 new positions?
Yes. They're the ones that we just approved in the last
Right.
ordinance. There's those 2,
Yep.
and then moving the portion of Ashley and Alex's salary into stormwater and Tim's salary into stormwater as well.
Okay, so the difference is I'll see that on the other side,
Yes,
a drop.
you'll see a drop in sewer.
Okay.
Sewer billing, you'll see the drop, and then you should see. I think the way we divided it up, though, Shane's salary is going to be in stormwater.
And I think to the question, I think as far as how some of this stuff is intermingled occasionally, I think as long as you're not using one fund to pad another, if you're making the efforts to try to balance that out, then I don't think there's any issues with comptroller. I mean, for instance, in the history of our sewer utility, we've often had our on-call sewer guys. For instance, we had the tornado response. Tim and the guys were out there on sewer. They were checking houses. And so you talk about other issues. If there's something that our sewer has had the on-call, has had the publicly available on-call number for a number of years. And so there's been many times that our sewer guys have taken care of other things randomly, but it's never been anything that I would say is amounted to a what I would call any kind of a violation of the funding or anything of that sort.
And I take that back. Tim's salary is in sewer and Shane's is in stormwater because they're both sort of split between, they're both working on both of those. So instead of splitting them both, one is in one and one is in the other.
Okay. Anything else on that? Nope. Okay. Moving along, and I know that we have the truck in there as well. Sewer fund revenue, we've got sewer billing, which Dana kind of hit on pretty well. Nothing really magical on there.
There's no rate increase either on sewer.
Yeah, that's a major point. And I'll say this, I think from our standpoint of we have to be in the black on our sewer, basically not for capital projects, not for tap fees, capacity fees. It's our maintenance expenditures versus our billing. And we have stayed above. If you get in the red for 2 years back to back, we get turned into the state board. That's why we had to do our rate study, right as I came on as director. And we have done a fantastic job of that. Tim and the guys, we made a concerted effort to try to make sure our part of that is our billing to Metro. That's one of the things, how much our flow to Metro is a major, major factor. And I think some of the things that we've been doing is really decreasing our flows to Metro projects we've got and some of the rehabilitation. So I think we're in great shape on that. I did want to note, Shane, you might talk there on the page 73, the contractual services, that part.
So what the mayor was alluding to earlier about the $400,000 contract for manhole inventory, 300,000 of that is going to that contract. Like I said, we do not have a database, a professionally mapped database for manholes in the city of Mount Juliet. Reason part of that is because the system's fairly young, probably early 80s.
Yep.
So we're getting into that threshold now. We're approaching 50 years on some parts of the life cycle. And like I said, when we go for funding, grant funding, they're going to ask for that. And that tied into the GIS employee that's being requested on their side. But it's just an overall proactive measure to get out in front of this. Inventory, asset management, we do it for roadways. The time has come to do it in the sewer department and go full throttle on it. So, sewer and stormwater, it's going to be both, but we got to have it, and we appreciate y'all requesting that, getting that contract going.
All right.
One of the other things I think, just to kind of finish this out here, machinery and equipment on page 74, we've got a new vacuum truck replacing our old truck. One of the things Tim and I talked about, we've got the old truck, instead of gov dealing it, I think that's one of the things that we can use and transfer that from the sewer, basically sewer cell to storm. And
like a plan.
That truck can be used by those two guys. So we don't have a place to put it, but I think it's one of those things, let's just use it for now. So the other thing is a dedicated dump truck. Tim has had to utilize one of our other fleet trucks in the past, and sometimes when we're doing salt and things like that, there's limited availability, or if Streets has a major project going on, he doesn't have the availability. So I think there's some real efficiency gains we can get out of that. So I think that kind of hits it. I've taken up too much of your time already. So
Quick question, American
Yes, sir.
Rescue Plan, the 2.5 million, is that
Nothing
aside
to do with the,
10 million?
nothing to do with that.
Okay.
Completely separate.
I heard some rumors that Congress was trying to claw some of that money back. Have you heard anything about that?
Spend it for the game.
That's what, that's why we're putting it on a project that's already under construction.
Yeah. I was referring more to the 10 million as well.
Oh, that. Oh.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, we've been reporting on that, and that's spent too.
As
We just-
spent?
That's, yeah. You could spend it on any government service. And I had to claim it last year. If we wanted that $10 million exemption, I had to go ahead and say, yes, we're going to do that. And so I just said, okay, yes, we're going to do that. And we're going to apply it to payroll, which basically freed up the 10 million that we would have spent on payroll to use for something else. So that one has been 100% reported. The 987 million that we also went towards
987 million?
I mean, oh my God.
Hey, yeah,
Okay.
raises for
I'm so
everyone.
sorry. It's a little late.
Cars and raises.
Hey,
Sorry, I
you
missed
might
that
kick me after
memo.
all.
I'm so sorry.
I won't go to TDOT anymore. How much can you pay me?
987,000 that we got went to the stormwater project for the detention pond.
Mundy Park.
Mundy
which
Park.
That project is done too.
Yes, and I will be reporting the final invoices on
Okay.
that one.
Tell them where they can come
End
get
of
their
this
money.
So it's all ours.
And the 2.5 is going in the ground right now.
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'll say this to that point and to that, Shane, Dana, in particular, have done a fantastic job of making sure the money's spent. One of the things we talked about when this came out was lessons learned that I had from the original stimulus back in 2009, and was spend it, and other cities are going to return some money, and that could eventually get returned back to us. So spend every dime we got while we got it, put it on the projects that we can spend while we've got it, and they have done an amazing job on that. So kudos to them.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yep. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Next
Oh,
up's Dana Hire.
that made me sad, Andy. Nope. Okay, me. Page 26. Okay. My budget is fairly status quo. I am asking for some help. I would like to add a project and grant manager to the office. I am pulled into a lot of project contracts, reviewing ordinances, paperwork, filings, which takes up a lot of time, and meetings. And with the PD building coming on board, other projects as they come along, I would like for this person to sort of take that off my plate. They would also be able to assist Public Works and Matt with invoicing TDOT for those projects. There's a lot of information that sometimes that Matt needs from us. So if I have somebody in there, they can have access to it. They can make sure those expenditures are getting reimbursed faster. They would also, I envision this being sort of a liaison with Public Works in determining timelines for projects, when they're coming, when they're going to need funding for them. So that's going to help me with cash management and making sure that, as I was working with Commissioner Hefner, making sure that we're utilizing the funds the best way possible. So I envision that this person assisting with that as well. They
Could pay for itself right there.
hopefully, yeah, especially. My accounting and auditing budget did go up because of the stormwater utility, some additional audit work they'll have to do there. And the state is now requiring a crosswalk from our financials to the state chart of accounts. So that's going to require some additional work. So I had 40 in there anticipating that, but after talking to our auditors this last week, it's been a long week, last week, it needs to up 2,000. So I just had to increase that to 42,000. And that just pretty much covers finance.
What's the total overall increase for personnel and operating?
Let's find out. Hold on. 14%.
Personnel.
Mm-hmm.
And
operating. Well, personnel and operating together is 14%.
Oh,
10 is
together.
operating, but it averaged out to 14 overall.
Okay. You'll just keep trucking on next and I'll just do closing.
Yeah, I'll keep going. Mm-hmm. Yep.
I do have one question.
Yes.
Under finance. I promise only one. Maybe 1.5. Interest income. I couldn't locate it in this book. Is it being reported?
It's in the general fund revenue page. So if you go to
Page 36?
no, it's sorry, hold on. Let me find it. It's not split up quite easy. So hold on, let me look. It's on page 12. It's like the third line down from the top.
850?
Mm-hmm.
Does that?
And
seems
that's
light.
not total overall. That's because that's general fund. There's other funds that the money that we had CDs in, it came from several different funds.
Okay.
So it's spread out.
So it's spread out all throughout.
Yeah.
So here's the other, sorry, I had two questions. The other 30 million is after tonight or after first reading? When are you going to
Probably after
moving?
first reading, so that I know if we're going to pay $9 million for a building, I need to know when that's going to be. So probably after first reading, but I have a plan for set amounts.
Okay.
Because it's not just general fund either.
Right.
There's some others.
Correct. Okay.
The debt service fund budget, sorry, my computer keeps dying on me.
59.
That did drop 60,000 to 1.6 million. This is the last year for the $300,000 payment for the fire trucks. Next year it will drop about 300,000, and then it will stay the same the next year after that, but then drop another 300,000 the year after that, and then stay relatively the same after that. I did conservatively budget the impact fees because of the struggles that we had this year and having to do the budget amendment to add more funds to that. So I was very conservative in my revenue projections for impact fees. However, I will only transfer, so that the general fund transfers are about 1.16 to that fund, but I will only transfer what we need. So we may not need that whole 1.16. It'll depend on how the impact fee revenue performs. So just so you know.
You had made a note on the I'll bring this up again, but you had made a note in here on the 25 million that it was going to come through a bond issuance.
Oh, yes. So I'm sorry, I meant to bring that up with them. I did put a $25 million borrowing in the capital projects fund, and I tend to do that because of the amount of transfers that comes from the general fund to the capital projects fund. I don't want to put so much pressure on the general fund, and there's not enough to transfer to cover $70 million in projects right now. So I put the $25 million borrowing in there to sort of offset that pressure on the general fund. That does not mean we have to borrow that. That is simply a contingency to, if we need to borrow, it's already budgeted and it's already in there. And it might actually benefit us to borrow. After speaking with Sam Cruz, who's our financial advisor, when I spoke to him a few weeks back, he said that we could actually borrow for about 2.5% to 3.5%.
Wish I could.
Right?
Last.
Yeah, that's is that from a?
That's from a
It's
bond.
financial, that's from a bond?
Mhm. Yeah, if we borrow, the bond issues right now, we could get it for 2.5% to 3.5%. There are timing issues on that though. So that's another reason I put the borrowing in there, because if come time to build this PD, we decide that, hey, we can earn 5% on our money, but we can borrow for 3.5%, then why would we spend our
Right.
own money, just borrow the funds as
a real life
long
scenario, isn't it?
as we
Yeah.
can spend the funds? The
Can make
timing is the issue. Because
Revenue off of borrowing.
yeah, so if
Income
you
off of
don't
borrowing.
spend a certain amount within a certain time, then you lose it. So you lose the revenue that you've made. So the timing of it is
Timing of
key.
spending it?
Yes, because
Oh,
you
we
have
don't
to
a problem
spend
spending money.
right. But you have to spend like 10% within the first 3 months. You have to spend like 45% within. So that's the only key to that. But that is a
That's
definite.
actually not a bad
Mhm.
consideration, actually, given the 2.5%, 3%.
We were quoted 5.2% CD rates
We have them in
when
there now.
we bid out on on the IDB.
That's what we're getting right now.
Mhm.
Liquid.
Yeah.
That's liquid.
Mhm.
No penalty.
We're getting 4.75 liquid, no penalty.
Nice.
The 5% there is a slight penalty on that if we took it out before 18 months, but we don't have to do that. I think we're covered.
Well, we had money markets quoted at 4%.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're in at 2 right now on our money markets, but I need to look at that because I'm thinking
We
about.
need to get these two together.
Mhm.
The state funds at what, 4.65?
Yeah, and that's what I'm looking at moving.
That's completely liquid.
Mm-hmm.
That you can run checking that out of it.
Mhm.
4.65%.
There's like probably a couple days delay, but yeah.
Pretty good.
But
That's
that's the
good.
borrowing in there.
Okay, good. I'm glad that's a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Save that one till the end.
End on a good note, I guess.
Yeah, no. It was a good one for sure.
The employee benefit fund, well, it's not such a good note, but insurance is quite a bit more, but the way that I have to budget that is a lot of assumptions. I've got 21 new positions in the budget. We just hired 17 firefighters, so I don't know what their insurance requests are going to be necessarily right now. So I have to kind of just divvy them up based on single and family. And those rates that are in the budget are weighted averaged between the two different plans and the two different single and family. So that's why that amount is what it is.
Yep. It's hard to guess, isn't it?
Yeah. But that's
All right. Any questions for Dana?
I think Dana's going to go ahead and continue with the other since we've made some last minute changes, and then I can articulate some of the,
On the executive?
yeah, if you'd like to. That is my high points, my closing.
There you go. Okay. Executive starts on 18.
Okay.
I think there was just a slight increase in the employee education for Leadership Wilson expenses. And then that budget looks looks huge, but it's just the transfers at the bottom. That's where they're located. So
Right.
you don't have a $30 million budget for you guys.
Darn.
Elections, the next page didn't change. Community grants, I increased that slightly to 248,000 this year. That amount will be divvied out once the budget passes.
Right.
Do you want me to do economic development and you do city manager, or do you want me to?
You just keep
Go-
on
keep
trucking,
going?
yeah, and
Okay.
I'll just jump in when it,
Okay. City manager, safety director.
yeah.
We are asking for a safety director this year, and I think is Lynn.
Lynn
you
is
wanna speak
here.
on that?
Lynn and I talked a little bit about this ahead of time. When Lynn came on board, we got to thinking about ways we could improve across the board with safety and insurance and other things. So felt like
Is this risk
having Lynn
management?
here.
You talking about risk management or?
Yeah, risk management.
Okay.
Yeah, and just call it safety director, but risk manager. And so I thought Lynn, because of his experience before he'd be better served to explain to you what we're thinking.
Sure. Again, one of the things I was tasked with is looking at some areas where we could improve. Shortly after I started, of course, you don't know what you don't know. But typically when I went around to every department, pretty much unanimous comment was more heightened focus on safety. And just historically, especially as whether it be a city, a municipality, any company, as they grow, through no one's real fault of their own, safety sometimes takes a back seat. I do think they've done an admirable job here up to this point, staying on top of what's required to be done, new regulations, what's required to be done, meeting OSHA and TOSHA standards. But considering in 2000, we were at 180 employees, and shortly, upcoming this year, we'll eclipse or be right at 300. So that's over a 67% increase. As everyone's job with as busy as the growth that we're experiencing, let alone the head count, my fear is safety will continue to take that back seat. And I think we would almost be negligent not to have someone that knows safety inside and out, knows the regulations, can partner with each department head, streamline their safety protocols, update safety protocols as they're required to be. Really, again, safety is something that a lot of people don't think about until there's a reason to think about it. So I think it's extremely important that we add someone with that expertise coming in here that can be a partner, that we can work with, set expectations with the department, and just make sure that the training that they come up with and deem necessary is taken care of. One really important tidbit here as well is we are also, because we have a need for it, several in the Public Works Department, they are requiring either a Class B or a Class A CDL. If we were to send them to a driving school to obtain that, you're looking at anywhere between $4,500 to $6,000. We are working with the Department of Safety. Actually, we have somebody coming out Friday, a representative from the Tennessee Department of Safety. They are going to help work with us. We've already submitted the paperwork to become a certified trainer so that we can do the skills training, what I call, there's a specific word for it, entry-level driver training exactly is what it's called. But essentially what we could do is we could get the approved materials. They're like a JJ Killer. Everything is certified of what the instructor would go over. It's what they would need to be required to go over. Plus, we would also have established somewhere here, and I think the Clemens Road location, as far as where the new location out there, we have enough space to conduct the behind the wheel training there as well. So, but again, someone's going to come out with the Department of Safety on Friday, go over the specifics with us just to make sure that we're going to be compliant with everything we do. You're looking at a one-time cost for the materials, about $6,000 or $7,000. But if we've got roughly 10 or more individuals in public works that need their Class A, that's certainly going to pay for itself. So again, I think it's a position it's been needed, but as we continue to grow, I think it's going to be even more so. As far as that goes.
Does it help with our work comp premiums?
Good.
I would think so.
Is there a percentage that we know of that work comp's going to drop as a result of?
I don't know that. I'd have to.
That's PE partners? We use PE partners?
Not work comp.
Their liability.
It's
For the risk.
it's not risk. It's
Public entity partners?
No, it's not. It's
Oh.
What?
Yeah, key risk
risk,
is the
thank you.
the workers' comp. Yeah, right. Key risk.
Key risk.
Right.
But y'all are right, though. You hear about this workplace accidents in government or other cities, everything from folks that are driving city vehicles while on duty, intoxicated. I think just it can teach a lot of middle managers, department heads what to look for, seatbelt usage, eye protection, ear protection.
Right.
When they're working in ditches and trenches, setting up on the roadway. Mr. Justice will understand this with our DUI checkpoints that we used to do. There were so many parameters and things that you had to do even to set up a proper DUI checkpoint. Even from the lights that were on the patrol cars to the headlights to the cone placement to sign placement. All it takes is that one thing.
And then
that
putting
one
a letter in
serious
the paper
accident.
telling everybody where you're going to be.
Yeah, it just
Yeah,
literally,
it's,
just things you would
I
never
thought that was
think of that a safety director or a risk manager will know. And we've done it in-house for years on our own, and we just, with the staffing and the city's growth, we just outgrown trying to do it internally.
Just simply having someone that's hyper-focused on that whenever there's new legislation or regulations that come up that is aware of that. Researching those things, it simply takes time. And again, not that anyone is intentionally not focusing on safety, but I think just simply as you grow, especially as quickly as we've grown, you have your department heads, they're simply trying to do their day in and day out job. And that's just the unfortunate part of it, but I do think it's highly, highly needed.
Does that mean we can't participate in PD's active, whatever they do, or they
Not at all.
shoot
As a matter of
rubber
fact, it'll
bullets?
help with that just from different things that we know. No, it would not at all.
Okay.
Right.
Matter of fact, we'd probably have more of that type of activity simply because we were making sure all of our bases are covered. Like he said, if you got somebody hyper focused on that, they're going to think of things that maybe we won't think of.
And Kenny made a good point too. It's not someone that's going to go around and point, well, this is what you need to do. I want, similar to my position, partner with your department. Become that, build that relationship, advise, and explain to them why you're advising, giving a valid reason as to why you're doing things. Now, they're not going to be able to force that department to do that, but again, they're going to point out the reason why and the importance of it. So that's how I envision that position. And that's how I want it to be, as a partnership.
Well, there was a small write-up in the weekly report. And can we expand on that? Maybe send out, because it was something about CDLs, and it made it sound like you were looking for a CDL.
No.
And Janet was looking for a CDL. So
that might have been confusing.
That was a. I didn't think that's what it meant, but
Right.
that's
No, I'll make sure I send out some pertinent information on that. It's more easily to understand.
Okay. Yeah, I think if you can just send that to us, I think we can get a good snapshot of whether this makes sense. And of course, there's other gains to be considered with it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I have some questions. Page 20. At the bottom under community grants, libraries, you're going to change that to Mount Juliet Library, right?
Yes.
Because that's what that is. That's an increase of what, $4,000?
Yeah, I've held them steady for quite a few years, so I increased that to 4. That's, if you guys don't want to do that, we can take it back down. But they've had little increases along the way, so I just thought it was time to give them.
Where does that money go?
To the library.
I mean, operating cost or what?
It helps operate our library.
The Mount Juliet, Wilson
Lyons
County Public
The one
Library.
right up the street here, the
Right.
Harvey Freeman Library, yeah.
The one that our taxpayer dollars or our property taxes are paying for, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Same one. page-wise.
Are you saying we're voluntarily giving them an additional $4,000 without them asking for it?
Yes.
No.
I'll take it out.
It's a good catch.
All right, right under that, the JECDB.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Oh,
I can speak to that one.
Yes.
I did.
Census.
I
That,
said,
that was not voluntary.
It wasn't.
I sat in the, it's in the commission / mayor seat on the JCDB with that. I did question that. It was evident that I was going to be outvoted. I got some negative internal press, I guess you said, or somebody sort of gave it to me a little bit because I voted against it. I just didn't agree with the setup. Some of it went to internal raises for staff, and they also brought a person that had been working out of the Lebanon Chamber through workforce development. So they brought that person on under the umbrella of JCDB. The main reason I voted against it is that they were going to have the person also do fundraising, so it felt like a little bit of a double dip, that they're funding it through the cities of Mount Juliet, Lebanon, Watertown, and the county. And that's why we got the substantial increase, but that they also would want the person to spend their time, some of their times raising money. I just felt like that didn't sit well. I think.
Yeah.
Can I summarize it, Kenny?
Yes, sir.
You had an organization out here that does great things. They were struggling to raise money. You put it under the JDBC. JDC budget gets increased. We automatically got to pay it by state law.
Yeah.
It's a mandatory grant. It's a little slick little move.
Yeah.
And we gripe about it every single year.
Yeah.
And then we pay.
What I didn't like about it is it remains a nonprofit,
Mhm.
and they're bringing it into a city.
Yeah, it's gotta
That's what I didn't like about it. I thought that they should have given up that
Yes.
nonprofit if you're going to bring it into the city.
Yeah, so it'll maintain its own little committee / board.
Just wonder what the Attorney General's opinion might be on the legality under the charter of the Joint Economic Community Development Board as to take on nonprofits under its own funding.
Mhm.
And obligating the elected officials of the municipalities and the county itself to pay for those things with no say in it.
Because I knew this commission in particular, like if you think about,
Even while you're on the board.
what is it?
You know,
Meals on Wheels,
Well,
Help Center,
the executive
Everyone's
makes
Wilson,
decisions.
they're all basically the same, and they didn't get brought under it either.
No,
So
and
it's
it
like, where does
also
it
doesn't
end?
look good that someone's wife serves on that board. It doesn't look good.
it's not mine.
Somebody, well, I got one, so it ain't me.
Nobody on this commission.
So,
Who's this? I don't want to know.
his wife serves on the board.
I
I don't think that looks good.
I was completely respectful, but I did face a little bit of pushback or negativeness, and that's okay. It was the right thing to do.
But they voted for it and we got to pay it.
Well, you should have seen the crap I caught when I was the only person who voted against the budget they presented one year. And when they increased the budget, and I said, no, I'm not voting for that. And I immediately started getting phone calls from all over the county. I know, well, shame on you. What are you thinking? Yeah, they do nothing for us in this end of the county.
No. Their new director is a lot more, he's been a lot more engaging, reached out to us, so I'll give him credit.
Now, I do like him. He's a sharp guy.
Yeah, he's
But,
great.
Yeah.
But the board up there is generally, if you're on 840 or you're going east, there you go. You got all the clout you want.
Hopefully times are changing, but I don't like bringing the nonprofit under that.
And I will tell you, Mayor Bell, does he sit on there also?
He did.
He voted.
I was thinking,
Yeah, he has a voting.
his wife is sharp as a tag. You know, and given the clout that board actually has, it really means nothing. It's not worth. I understand. I would probably have some concerns too, but really, in the grand scheme of things, that one vote, nobody counts it. So, if you go back and look at all the really close votes for anything that they've had up there, you'll find that there are none. They're like 99% voting for something.
Okay, page well, page 21. For the number 41320, publication of Formaland Legal, what is that? Oh, okay. So that's increasing by 2,000
Yeah.
roughly?
We don't know. It's a guess, but the cost has, like everything else, gone up.
Mhm.
Just a little blur. The notice for this meeting probably cost me $24.99.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wasn't sure what that was. And then 41320, public relations is increasing 3,000. So what exactly is the public relations?
Public relations is, dang, I can't even find it. Oh, no. What's the 3-digit code?
236.
Okay, when we have an employee in the hospital, a death of certain family members, a baby, we send flowers. A baby, we send a blanket. But maybe we don't do flowers for a death. Maybe we do a blanket for that also.
Like Mayor Binkley, for example, or
Yeah.
we may do a little more of that.
We've
depending on-
increased our employees, so we increase our,
May not ever spend it all, but just
yeah,
covered if
yeah.
you do need
We,
it.
we don't want to have to come back and say, hey, we need to buy 4 more baby blankets.
We get a lot of older employees, so we're expecting a lot more people to die.
I take offense to that, Ray.
Well, it's funny, Ray and I you and I might have been talking about these cities. We're finding more and more people. We're finding more and more people on our phones that we just can't bring ourselves to delete them because they passed. It's just, mine's just getting bigger and there's more people and trying to show respects. And sometimes we may buy a meal for the family at the funeral home.
Public relations it's sort of a,
It's a catch-all to make people feel good. and-
yeah.
Kumbaya fund is what we call it.
Okay, so
Think about if you go and buy flowers for somebody to send to a funeral. How much do you spend? You've got to spend $70, $80, $90 for it to look better than a little bitty vase of flowers you go back.
Or even somebody's in the hospital.
Yeah.
Marty's wife was in the hospital 8 months. Yeah, you may send something for that.
well, I was just questioning why it was increasing 3,000.
Yeah.
Basically, we've increased the number of employees. It's a guess.
Okay.
And to be
Inflation.
honest, I hate to say this, but our past commissioners, like we just lost Ed Binkley, we lost Luther Lennon a few years ago. We're losing some of our past elected officials, and we have always sent something to the funeral home. I don't know how you decide, since we've always done it, how do we decide we're not going to do that anymore?
Hell, James is here and getting grayer.
This is true. I think it's serving on this board that's doing it
I'm
too.
sure it probably is.
And then one more, 41320, well, they're all the same number.
Yeah. it's
Office
that-
supplies
it's that-
and materials.
The 3-digit code is behind that. Is the
Oh,
one that
okay.
changes.
That's 10,005 up from 2,500.
Okay, that is being increased because if the safety director position is approved, that person will have to have furniture. It will have to have,
Okay.
There's just
Yeah.
stuff that goes along with a new
Well,
employee.
in Travis's position, in the clerk position downstairs, probably clerk position over there, furniture, things of that nature, if you're having to add. Again, a lot of that is if you have to. A lot of times we reach out to the state for surplus for some of that stuff.
And the training did increase also, which is 413202004, the second line. And what we're going, the planning commission always has their required yearly training, where Jennifer and I have come across a gentleman that does a really good job with Robert's Rules of Order. And we're going to offer not only that class, but we're going to include every city board in that yearly training this year. And I think the date is September something. Maybe the
Sounds like
25th, maybe the 26th, because we've already lined him up. But we just wanted to have enough money in there to feed everybody dinner. We don't know, but we're included like the ABB, the BOZA, the traffic commission, the
Yeah.
development board, the IDB.
Commissioner
That's a lot
Justice
of.
had asked us, you know, because some of the boards are paid, some aren't, that there's things we could do to recognize some of the other boards periodically. Sometimes it might be a years of service, because there's some that's been there, like Mr. Cersei for a long time, where you buy a little trophy or a plaque, and try to include them.
4
in those
years
kind of
ago, I
things.
asked that.
Kenny chewed on it a little while.
Okay, page 23, number, is it the object number? 310?
Yeah.
47200, 310. Office supplies and materials, $8,000. Amended budget was 750.
Okay, if you notice the line under
Office furniture.
office furniture.
Okay, is this just citywide or?
No, this is actually for the City Beautiful department.
Oh, okay. All
And
right.
there are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 11 employees in there currently.
Okay, and the 14.5 is safety equipment.
Correct.
11,000.
Same kind of stuff, gloves. ear
Operating
protection,
supplies.
Yeah, ear protection, eye protection, helmets, hard hats, whatever.
Okay. That, I just wondered what those were.
All right. Any other questions? You want to land a skinny?
Yeah, I know Ray will kill me on this. I was sitting here just thinking, I know he loves bugging me about the Kumbaya, but it's true. You guys ought to be applauded. I want you to really think about you've got 11% property tax, 2.2 million out of the budget. We were basically a destination. It's growing all around us. Everybody's trying to steal our lunch money. And we got the Tanger outlets coming in Antioch. You got Lebanon's trying to do as much as they can on Hartman and also on 109 that you're seeing. The 109 widening, it's going to have an impact on that. You can tell that with the new Public Center. You can see that with the Western Plaza, I guess it is, where Kmart used to be. We're always going to have those worries and concerns. And my role is trying to bring enough money in, just like what everybody knows in here, through retail. Retail development's been our thing, and the building permits. Building permits, they'll come and go simply because it's houses and interest rates and things of that nature. But the focus is really on economic development, all the way down into the weeds, to where if it's the lady beside us and trying to figure out a way to get her open, or Costco. I want to thank y'all. And again, it's not just hokey. It's a God's honest truth. We cannot function as a city without economic development. I mean, you know, it's constantly trying to backfill that old business, you know, and you'll take a bank, but you really wish it was a restaurant. Luckily, we have some areas, Golden Bear is one of them, the redevelopment of Lebanon Road, the corridor, you're starting to see that. You're going to see a lot more. A lot of conversations, meetings being held daily internally between Marty and I and other folks. A lot of your commissioners are involved in that as well. We need that. We have got to have that without a doubt. So I appreciate all the efforts being made on traffic. The economic engine is what drives the city. So I just wanted y'all to, few high points of things that this commission, as we sit here tonight, -1, have done. The EQ Basin property, Hamilton Denson, the Monday Park upgrades with the pickleball courts and all that. Doesn't even count the detention you guys did. Thomason property, which will eventually be a park that we really got our return on investment back because the developer bought the property. The city garage, which is phenomenal for years, the majority of the 50 years the city has been in existence, had one mechanic. What you're doing will save money tenfold just because you'll have people here that can fix those things. The new fire hall's about to open, wouldn't have happened without you. The EMS, don't even get me started on that because that's unheard of. Nobody does that. You guys don't ever get a chance to bask in the glory of the things you're doing. So your focus is front and center, like most everybody on this planet right now. You think about the negative, right? You know, you can't go home and watch the news without negative. And you know there's some good stuff in there, but you never get to hear about it because the negative is what sells. So we're just immersed in it. You guys need to take a minute sometimes because you're sacrificing your families for us, and we do appreciate it. We can't do what we do. We do all kinds of stuff, but once it gets here, this is where the rubber meets the road. And y'all know that. And I'm always going to tell you that. That's the way I'm wired, and that's the way that I mean it. So I want to thank you. Regardless of how this budget turns out, regardless of how it gets amended between now and second reading, we're going to take what you give us and get the most out of that. I just want to thank you for stepping up over the last few years because we do feel like now that we can come before this commission and ask for tools and ask for personnel and get it. And I've been probably the cheapest of anybody over the years because that was sort of the mindset that and Ray, you know that, the mindset. Public safety has been put first, as it always should be. It always will be. Transportation should probably be second on that. course, safety comes with safety employees. That's included. So I know Ray's giving me the eye, but it was important for me to say that. I know it. I've been dealing with that for 33 years. And that's not, you can't change the way God made you and the way your parents raised you. But I want y'all to know that is you don't get a chance to bask in it. And y'all have to be hard on one another, and you should be hard on us. We're striving for perfection. There's a lot of cities that love to be Mount Juliet. I can tell you that. And there's a lot of cities that like to take our lunch money, and we're not going to let it happen. And I want to thank you most importantly for Marty and what y'all have done. City Beautiful doesn't seem like a big thing, but Ray will tell you this. Robert, what was it? Sir Robert Peel, Robert's boys, he talked about the broken window theory. You can never talk about that enough because it talks about the beautification and cleanliness of a city. Y'all know this. Really look at other cities and what they're doing. We're like any other city. Hendersonville's great. Gallatin's great. Murfreesboro's great. They're all great. But the one thing we're doing here that sets us apart is City Beautiful. It's those little things that you notice when you come across the county that takes every day. The codes enforcement, which we were never able to really put a good bite into it because we just didn't have the personnel, and giving us that extra person will go a long way. So thank you for looking for the things that think outside the box that nobody else would have thought of doing. He would have said, it just seems like a waste of money. Go to Hermitage and even go to Lebanon and look at the difference. And that's what's going to set us apart going forward. If we let that blighted part move in, the Economic Development Commission, is better than anybody, will plummet because people won't feel comfortable. That's the one thing that people do feel comfortable coming here and shopping because it looks good. They feel good while they're here. And I was sitting in the parking lot for an hour and 10 minutes this weekend to take my wife to Mother's Day dinner. And that was at Red Lobster. And since I had so much time, they said, we'll text you when we're here. I rode around the parking lots. And I looked and I saw Williamson County tags, Rutherford County, Robertson County, Davidson County, you name it, right here. And I just sat there and I could just hear that register going in my head saying, thank you. That's what we got to keep. And that's what we got to maintain. So thank y'all.
All right. Thank you, sir. Motion to adjourn. All right. All in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Hold on. Where's the gavel?